Chris Breakblock's hard. How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Venerian.
And Volosel, I'm here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, such as it was. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in the Discord server, which you can get to. I had to mentally stop myself from saying IRC again. Does anybody even have IRC anymore? You can join us in Discord.
I'm not sure what just happened, but you've also gotten a very strange effect going on your microphone. What is going on?
Maybe I bumped the cable.
Maybe.
No, you're good now. You're good now.
Yeah, stay there.
Huh. Okay. I'm probably about, an eighth of an inch further away because I moved back a little bit to look at my microphone. But, but yeah, you can join us in our Discord server by clicking on the link which will be provided in the show archive on YouTube.
Yes. And now, for your viewing pleasure and my terrible displeasure on the stream today, I'm playing Dynasty Warriors 9.
The one which we all prefer to think doesn't exist.
Yeah, so it's free on Steam right now, or at least the demo version is. Which, honestly, Steam needs to offer demo versions for more things. Like everything.
Yeah, actually, speaking of, and since this is sort of a micro news topic which is very pertinent to this, I'll just mention it now. Apparently, the Sony has made that change to their store. They are mandating that every what was the figure? I can't remember exactly, but it's something like every game with a wholesale price greater than like $36. Wholesale price, I don't know what that means in terms of retail price, maybe $40. They must provide a minimum 2-hour demo.
Which is going to make some of those
which will
indie devs very upset.
Will only be accessible. Well, no, because those indie devs aren't charging $40 for their game, I would hope. But
No.
These demos will only be accessible on the top tier premium PS Plus service.
Yeah, that's where the catch is.
Yeah, people seem pretty divided on how good of an idea this is, because it's sort of, they can just demand of the developer to do this, and there's nothing the developer can really say without, straight up rebelling against the platform.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if Steam would allow just like 1 hour of play per game per account.
But I mean, I guess maybe there are people for whom that's a really great idea, because like if they don't want to commit a lot of time to something, they can just try something new for a couple of hours in one evening or whatever.
Yep.
Because this is a before you spend money thing. It's not like Steam where you've got to exploit the refund procedure, putting your money at risk.
Yep. So it looks like I haven't actually touched this. I finished installing it like right before we started recording the show. Like immediately before we started. So it looks like there's a free trial battle where you get to play as... Well, actually, there's quite a lot of officers here, but maybe 10, 12 different officers. Why is everyone wearing purple? What is going on? This is confusing me now. Oh, hang on, that's just because they're all way. Never mind. I didn't notice the tabs at the top. So you can play a trial battle, or you can play the first couple of chapters of any one of the stories using a selected officer, but you can only choose 3 of the 5 stories.
I see.
Because you get trial tickets for that. Who do I want to... I'm going to do the battle, or the trial battle. So they've actually got a fairly decent roster. It's not as crazy as 8 was. I think 8 Empires had like 108 characters or something.
Yeah, like starting to wonder how many of those were actually written in the original book. I know it's very long, but
Well, a lot of them were like they had walk-on parts, like they were there for one scene, and they may have had a line, or they may not have had a line.
they were listed in a paragraph as members of somebody else's family.
Yeah, and that's about the extent of it. Zhang Bao has a new weapon. I might play him. Do you want to start the battle trial using this officer? You'll receive money at the meeting, blah, blah, blah. Play the game for 10 minutes, condition, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, I guess I unlock stuff to carry over the full version. Should I be crazy enough to buy it?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Probably not. Nine Empires might be better. The Empires games tend to be substantially different from the game they're based on.
It was a long time ago that it came out, and I think I have only vague memories of what people said about it when it did come out, but I seem to recall it being something along the lines of, yes, it's technically better, no, it's not worth buying.
Yeah. Alright, let's see what Zhang Bao's new. Oh, am I in tutorial mode? Liu Bei has a hat now.
I'm surprised you can actually remember that the weapon is new. I can never remember what weapons people have these days.
I forget what he used to have. I think it was just a sword. But now he's got a weighted chain. So this is, I think, a brand new weapon. Hello, Cao Cao. Cao Cao looks the same, at least.
It was only in DW6 though that he was Cao Cao, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was Cao Cao in 6. I'm just pressing buttons based on the old controls. So that's heavy attack, and that seems to be... Get that out of my face. I know what all this is. Reactive attacks are new, though. Which is a quick time event. Special attack is... Okay, that's those. Right. Let me just beat up dudes, please. So yeah, like the core combat looks basically Dynasty Warriors standard. They've gotten it to a point where they can't mess with it really too much at this point.
You would think, but
yeah,
but they I don't know. I don't trust them. I don't trust them.
Apparently, the was it One Piece Warriors 4, whatever they call it, Pirate Warriors 4, did really shake things up. But they can do that with a spin-off game. So yeah, let's see how bad this is. I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing, but let's just go with it. As for weeks, haven't done a whole lot this week, unfortunately, because work happened, and why am I collecting rocks? Yeah, this is going to be a distraction because they put crafting into Dynasty Warriors, like actual crafting.
Yeah, I don't know what possessed them to think that was a good idea. Like, no, if this had happened a certain number of years ago, I would have assumed that it was, it's because everybody's into MMOs right now and they think that it'll be more popular if they be more MMO. But that was a long time ago now.
Yeah, I think Dynasty Warriors 9 came kind of a bit after that.
Yeah. Because Dynasty Warriors 9 was even after the MOBA boom had tailed off, and the MOBA boom came after the MMO boom.
But before the open world boom.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we've got like Far Cry to blame. I don't know.
Probably. We have Ubisoft to blame for so many things. Alright, put the battering ram in. Why? So yeah, anyway. Weeks. I didn't do a whole lot because, yeah, it just ended up being a weird full-on week all round. But I did finish the new Kirby game. And I think it's just... What is even going on? I'm getting stun locked for no reason. They're dropping rocks on my head. Yeah, in typical Kirby fashion, the final boss is a horrible monstrosity that has absolutely no business being in a kid's game. So, yeah. You beat the final boss, and then here comes this horrible blob amalgam thing, which seems to be devouring everything in its path. Oh wait, that's Kirby. Aside from Kirby, that's Kirby. Kirby does that too, but yeah. So that's a bit jarring.
Well, that's true to form, more or less.
It's, yeah. Like, let's not forget how absolute horror Marks was. But, yeah, it's still a fun little game. It's not difficult. Although some of the post-game contents will get you a little bit of challenge. As long as you don't remember how to, slow down and actually take advantage of the dodge mechanic they've put in.
What does post-game content look like in a Kirby game?
In this case, it's a series, another world basically they tack on, but the stages are mashups of all the stages from across the rest of the game.
I see.
So you'll do a segment from one stage, go through a door, and then there'll be a segment for another stage. While in there, you're collecting lion souls to bring back was supposed to be the final boss. Before the cosmic space horror turned up. The other cosmic space horror.
What is Kirby canonically from space?
Yes!
Yeah, he's an alien.
He is an alien from his weird-shaped planet. But also, in this case, Kirby is pulled from Popstar, as is everyone else, and are on this world where apparently this alien ascended, they say, the population, which I think is a nice way of saying devoured. Oh, there's my Musu attack. Found it. So, yeah, he's an alien in multiple senses. They seem to have just brought Meta Knight into the game for absolutely no reason. He's there for an arena fight. You fight him there, and then for the rest of the time, he just stands in a corner.
Oh, he's got a lot of fans.
Yeah. He's there for
But then again, when you said that, what it reminded me of was people's complaints about Bane Bloodhoof in Shadowlands.
Yeah, he basically sat in the corner for the whole game as well.
Scratching his backside because he's a Tauren, and that's what Tauren do.
And they do.
But the thing is that the reason why I think people were so mad about that is that his only and entire claim to fame is that, his dad died, and now he's in the afterlife, and he doesn't care to go and actually see if his dad's around.
You'd think he would be, and that would be an important moment. But no.
Well, the thing is that sort of gets to one of the larger problems with Shadowlands lore as a whole, is that it ruins so much of the rest of the lore in the game. Like, what does the Tauren especially, although Orcs to some extent, but mainly Tauren, ancestor worship religion, how does that work now that they've all been to the afterlife?
That's an interesting question.
Like, everything that they did in the last expansion was catastrophic for the lore.
I mean, that is something that could actually be explored as an interesting way. But they didn't.
And it won't be.
And it won't be.
The whole idea that the afterlife is actually Disneyland was a terrible idea, and they should stop.
Yeah.
They should just retcon the entire last expansion. Everybody should wake up and find it was all a dream.
Oh, what's this? I think I found a new...
But I actually like... I don't know whose idea it was. Maybe it was Michael Bell's. Maybe it was one of his co-workers. I can't remember. But somebody had the idea of doing it such that the entirety of the Shadowlands expansion was actually a hallucination taking place during the final boss battle with N'Zoth.
I mean, it would probably make more sense.
Yeah, other than, killing N'Zoth with Kamehameha and then going to the afterlife to fight a guy who you don't know, who is doing something you don't know about for reasons you don't understand.
He's very proud of his nipple, though.
Yes, his nipple. But if that's a hallucination, I don't want to know what suppressed impulses are being made manifest therein. But I think it would be a better story than having to deal with the reality that is Shadowlands.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Bane stands in the corner doing nothing, much like Meta Knight.
Yeah. DDD shows up again, you fight him a second time.
Why?
Because he's DDD. But after you beat him, then he comes back to the village you've been building the whole time, and he just loafs around in the corner. But loafing around is actually kind of expected from him, so that's fine.
Well, yeah, that's all he wants in life, though. It's only that Kirby won't let him.
Well, it's because he keeps doing... Well, no, actually, he doesn't keep doing a whole lot of things at all, really. He kind of got jealous of Kirby that one time.
Basically, I always make a big deal about DDD because I identify with DDD. Like, all he wants to do, really, is live the quiet life in comfort.
Yeah. He got jealous of Kirby, so he tried to why am I getting so many stat points? He tried to outdo him, he failed, and then he just kind of went back to doing his own thing.
But it's like, oh, well, you did something embarrassing once in high school, and now nobody will let him live it down.
Exactly.
Well, to be fair, I know somebody that called me at 2 o'clock in the morning after I'd been up for 3 days straight to tell me about gym slots.
Believe me, there are more than enough people in the world who are willing to make him feel bad about himself. Like, he has certainly received the karmic backlash.
Oh dear. So yeah, DDD. I like DDD. I've always liked DDD. Because he's not a bad guy. He's a jerk, yes, but he's not a bad guy most of the time. He was a bad guy that one time, and Kirby's never let him live it down.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess he's only a villain because he was a villain before, and not because he's done anything villainous recently. Like, you got to remember, Geef was a villain.
Yeah.
Zangief. He was a villain. When was the last time you saw him do anything villainous?
Maybe like the 90s.
Yeah, like he was. I guess he was a villain because he was Russian. Like, so maybe he's going to become a villain again in the next one, since everybody's butthurt at Russia right now.
Yep. Jahoudun, why do you have so many life bars?
He's just special.
Apparently. I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm stuck in the corner. Oh. Well, that works, I guess. And a pop-up just got me another hit. What? What? Okay, there we go. I got smacked over a wall. I couldn't jump back over it again.
What do I have to do to convince Capcom that they need to make another Sengoku Basara game?
Money. Okay, I just got kicked back to the title screen. I guess that's all the fun I'm allowed.
Huh, that's not much of a demo.
No, it's not. Let's try the story mode then. Suppressing. Yeah, let's just go with yellow turbans, I guess.
I sort of have a fondness for yellow turbans, although I preferred the older versions of yellow turbans, not the heinously complex version that you get sometimes now.
Yeah, where it's like cartoonishly evil overlord ruling an army of unwashed peasants.
Well, I mean, it's always been that, but the problem is in the one that appears in the version of it, I suppose, that appears in 8, you end up having to fight in this tiny little platform at the edge of the level where you basically can't move because it's jammed full of so many dudes because they've made the level so complicated that everything funnels into this one spot by a couple of little bridges.
Yep.
It's just, why'd you do this? It wasn't necessary.
I know I should do the tutorial so I know what I'm actually doing properly, but I'm not going to. I'm going to flail at this game and hope it works.
Well, flailing is basically how you're supposed to play Dynasty Warriors.
Precisely. Why mess with tradition?
Yeah, I've been meaning to get back to playing them, and Warriors Orochi as well, because I just like them. For me, it's still bittersweet though, because I liked Sengoku Basara more, but they've never made another one, or at least they've never released another one in the West. I don't know, maybe they feel that there's no room for it because Dynasty Warriors is so popular, but I like it because it's halfway between Dynasty Warriors' level of seriousness and Gouda Gouda.
Yeah.
It's very, very much more ridiculous than Dynasty Warriors, and Dynasty Warriors isn't especially realistic to begin with.
No, exactly right. Warriors Orochi kind of is a middle ground between the two.
Yeah, but
I mean, Lu Bu turning up and going Super Saiyan.
I would argue Sengoku Basara is significantly sillier than
Oh yeah, without
than
question.
Warriors Orochi. But yeah, I just wish they'll make another one. Come on, Capcom. You've got so many IPs you just don't use. I think Capcom owns it.
Might have to look that up. But yeah, there's plenty of the Dynasty Warriors Warriors games out there. You've got the Zelda one, although there's the Breath of the Wild one I haven't touched yet. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that one, although I did enjoy Hyrule Warriors. So, I don't know, maybe more of that.
Yes, it's developed by Capcom. Although apparently Arc System Works worked on it once.
Oh, no wonder.
2008.
Hey man, can I actually change the weapon? Yeah, okay. Characters don't seem to be locked to a weapon anymore.
Oh yeah, that was. I remember hearing that a lot of people were really mad because the weapons are very much part of the character for a lot of them. They've been using them a long time for some of them that have been in the series a long time. Though they occasionally change them.
Yeah, it just gave me a bunch of promo weapons. So I've got my regular Iron Blade, which has 60 attack on it, and that's Cao Cao's starting weapon. Which, I mean, it looks like a sword. It's just a sword. And then I got the Jubilant Spear.
Jubilant!
408 attack on it.
Are you feeling jubilant?
Not particularly. I'm happy to see Cao Cao again. But could he be in a better game, please?
You need to check how his name is pronounced. This is important.
I've left the sound off so it doesn't interfere with the show.
Okay. Because it is critical to determine whether or not he is Cao Cao this time or whether he is Cao Cao.
Yeah. Like, that was always part of the appeal of the earlier Dynasty Warriors games as well. Like, the voice acting was bad, but as the time went on, they just reveled in it.
Yeah, it was like, once upon a time, it was sort of like Resident Evil 1 bad.
Yeah. They got the pronunciations better, but beyond that, that's about as well as they got.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, you can't exactly call Shushu's voice good.
But I liked a lot of the classic weapon layouts for them. I don't know why they changed them up at all. I think that it's probably because they just need to increase the size of the cast and they need to increase the diversity of weaponry a little bit without making it too hard on themselves. As once you get over 100 characters, making them all unique starts to become a bit rough.
Yeah, it got like, here's a sword, here's a slightly different sword. 2 different characters will use them in completely different ways.
But yeah, back during 6, I mained Sima Yi, but they moved his weapon to Zhang Chunhua.
What did Sima Yi used to have?
The wide gauntlets.
Oh, right, yeah.
But they're on his wife now.
They're on his wife.
Yeah, his wife. I actually really like his wife. She's a fun character because it's clear that everyone in the clan is terrified of her.
Yes.
Like she is nothing but like the genteel mother figure to everybody. But anytime there's a chance that something might displease her, everybody becomes very frightened of what that she might do or think or say, but you never actually see her reacting badly to anything. You only ever hear that you don't want to.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder, like, what has she done?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like there's lots of jokes about how she's the only one in the Three Kingdoms who can outdo her husband, and it's mainly because her husband's afraid of her.
Okay. So, I don't want to look at all the tutorials. I wanted to do what is typical of Dynasty Warriors and flail madly at things. Let me flail.
Well, you should have played Zhang Fei then.
Yeah, actually, I should have played Zhang Fei. That's assuming he still has his flail.
No, I don't think that. I'm not saying that he's a flail thing. I'm saying that he's always drunk. So,
oh yeah.
So flailing is basically all you can do.
So yeah. 8. I think did a really good job of basically bringing the Dynasty Warriors series forward. Like, there's so many different ways you can go through it. There's so many different hypotheticals you can unlock.
Yeah, there's just an if you just like Dynasty Warriors content, like there's an awful lot.
There is
An awful lot. Like I didn't even manage to scratch the surface of it, and I spent hours and hours playing it, and I got basically nothing done.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a good game, but they seem to be generally speaking more focused on Samurai Warriors franchise these days.
I never got the mechanics behind Samurai Warriors. It's just a little bit
like
off.
them. I don't generally play those characters in Warriors Orochi because they just feel a little bit jank.
Just a little bit off, yeah. Since when did Cao Cao have ice powers?
They change which elements they get on the regular.
Yeah,
So-
last time I thought he was usually had fire. Nope, apparently he's got ice now. Oh, okay, I'm tutorializing and I didn't even notice it.
So what did you do during the week?
That was honestly about it. I did work, I did Kirby. I'm still in the kind of the phase of I have time to do things now, so I'm catching up. And admittedly, our new driver's not exactly all that good, so I'm not sure how long we're going to have him for.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah.
Well, get your rest in now while you can.
Well, the point, Cao Cao is not just have his ice power. Cao Cao is an ice wizard. What?
He's a wizard now.
He's a wizard. You just randomly summon a hailstorm. You can just do that.
Yeah, I also don't like how far in that direction they went with so many characters. Like a lot of characters are wizards now, especially in Warriors Orochi. But it's easier to forgive there because Warriors Orochi is like a ridiculous fantasy story. But yeah, I think they made a few too many wizards. I think I preferred it when the wizardry was a little bit more low key and pretty much reserved for strategists.
Yeah. Like, Zhuge doing fan magic all over the place. Makes sense, sort of. I thought I did that. Oh, there we go. I mean, I don't hate the combat in this. It's taking a little bit of getting used to because it's different from what I'm used to.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. Like in this particular case, what matters is not whether you don't hate the combat, but whether there's a reason to stop playing 8.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say, nope. So, yeah. Like, looking at the map at the moment, yeah, that's a full-on open world. And then I've got open fields surrounding me. I was just fighting someone on a road. It doesn't honestly feel like a Dynasty Warriors map. Like, Dynasty Warriors maps are typically very structured. I don't suppose there's a way I can actually move faster, is there?
You normally have a horse in Dynasty Warriors, don't you?
Yeah. Oh. Never mind, I'm just getting random loading screens. This would, of course, be easier to understand if I wasn't trying to do the show at the same time. So, yeah, honestly, that's really about it for my week. Haven't really done a whole lot in the way of anime either. Just chipping away at Gintama and went to one of probably the stupidest arcs I've seen in a while. The big badass character picks up a sword that slowly turns him into a NEET. That's the plot. Well, that's part of the plot. It is very, very silly. And yeah, I need to actually get back in and properly catch up on some of the anime that's been coming up. Like, there's some stuff that now that's it's gone through its full run is worth a look.
There's a lot of stuff that is not worth a look at.
There's also a lot of stuff that goes the other way.
Yeah, like just don't.
Yeah.
There's a lot of just don't over the past few seasons.
Yeah. So many bad isekais. Speaking of bad
Good,
isekais,
the thing is, good isekais are the very rare exception. Isekai can generally be assumed to be bad.
yeah. Oh no, crafting. Why is there crafting?
Because that's what generals spend their time doing, right?
I have peasants to do that. I was supposed to make a gem, not a new sword. Apparently everyone has a bow as well.
That's not strange. There've been other Dynasty Warriors in the past where they've had that feature.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Well, there's been
usually those entries to the franchise where they would often put archers in towers, and sometimes you just couldn't get to them, so everybody had to have a bow.
Yeah. It makes sense. So yeah, I'm not hating it so far, but it's not so much I hate it, it's just why in a lot of cases.
Well, for me, Dynasty Warriors has to be a particular thing, and that particular thing is best described as Dynasty Warriors.
Yes.
There's a reason why Musou is the name for the genre.
Yes.
And I think that deviating too much from that formula erases the only thing about it that actually made it worth playing.
Yeah. Like, you can deviate it. They can deviate a bit with the side games, and they have. And that's fine, but I think core Dynasty Warriors, people go into it expecting a certain thing.
Yeah, I think the thing I don't like about the open world thing is that part of what makes Dynasty Warriors for me is the fact that it is a famous historical set-piece battle.
Yes.
Like, Chibi is a place, sure, but the Battle of Chibi means a specific thing, a certain sequence of events happening in a particular way.
Yeah. Oh my. So it just kicked me back out to the same menu, and I've flicked through to Jin. Sima Yi is flamboyant.
He's usually flamboyant, it's just a question of how much.
Excessively.
I see.
Actually, that's Dong Zhuo. Oh, yes. I think he's very nearly completed his metamorphosis.
Into what?
A One Piece villain.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's Yon Shuao? He's literally mustache twirling.
Well, he's always been like that.
No, he has, but he never actually twirled his mustache. Now he's doing it right here. There's Lu Bu. He's Lu Bu. He's always Lu Bu.
I've always been amazed at how Yuan Shao somehow manages to be even less likable than Dong Zhuo.
It's because he's just so greasy.
He's going to try to sell me a used car any minute now.
Yeah.
And he's going to expect me to thank him for it.
Zhu Rong, good grief, she's just gone primal. Dao Shan has forgotten what pants are.
Well, she very rarely knows what pants are.
She was a courtesan or a dancer or something, wasn't she originally?
She was the wife of Lu Bu, and
yeah,
I don't know that she was really a courtesan. She's one of sort of the legendary beauties of China.
Yeah,
but she's got a bad reputation.
Yeah,
like a lot of them. I don't remember if she was actually originally a courtesan or not.
There was something like that in her story. She does, for some reason, have this really long, very thick metal whip.
I have a funny since basically she doesn't have very much historical story, because like it's most of what people quote know unquote about Diao Chan is her incarnation in drama. I think generally people assume she was a maid.
Yeah. Sao Ren doesn't look like a space marine anymore. That's something.
That's disappointing.
Slightly. He also doesn't have that weird spike shield this time around. He's got a flail. Like a lot of the character designs they've kept similar over the years. Some characters have changed a lot, but
what about that little girl? What's her name? The daughter, Guan Yu's daughter.
Oh, Guan Yu's daughter. Where are we? Shu. Where is she? Yu Ying.
No, Yu Ying is the wife of Zhuge Liang.
Oh yeah, that's right. Zhuge Liang, Bao Sai Nang.
Guan Yinping.
That was it. Here she is. Oh dear. She's changed. Do you like lollies?
She wasn't a lolly before.
She is now, and she has this ridiculously large spiked mace thing.
Huh.
On the other hand, Zhu Kang has a really nice hat. There's Zhao Yun. He's still Zhao Yun. Guan Yu's beard has lost its magnificence. Okay, that's why this game is getting massive negative reviews.
Trying to find a picture of her from 9.
Yeah. Like Zhu Liang, Zhang Fang's changed a bit. He looks like he would smell bad. Like worse than before, I mean. So yeah. That's Dynasty Warriors 9, and I would play it through the show, but it doesn't want to let me.
I don't know why the design change is pretty subtle between 8 and 9. All of the same elements are there, but they've just adjusted her frame such that she looks younger with bigger booba now, is basically
Yes.
the difference between the two versions.
I'll take her out on the battlefield. Let's see how she spins.
Because she was one of my favourites to play in 8.
She was always a lot of fun to play in 8, yeah.
Another one who I mainly like because her personality is amusing. Because
Yes.
she thinks that she's the weakest one in her family and that she has to strive to keep up with her siblings.
And she accidentally crushes granite benches just by sitting on them.
Yeah, because she's like Hercules level strong, at least as strong as her father, but she thinks that she's the weakest one in her family, even though she in terms of raw power, she outmasses all of her brothers who are all terrified of her, even though she's got a pure, sunshine and happiness personality, because she doesn't know how strong she is. And if she hugs them too hard, they might die.
She is a lot of fun to play, though. Her mace is like 10 feet long. Whoosh. So, yeah. Going through this, honestly, yeah, the game itself isn't bad. And it is Dynasty Warriors, but it's not... How to put it? It strays too far from the path, I think is probably the way to put it.
Yeah, I think it's sacrificing too much of what people liked in order to get something they didn't ask for.
Yeah. If they'd done this in a spin-off game, nobody would have batted an eye, I think. Actually, if they'd done this in Hyrule Warriors, people probably would have praised it, honestly. So, yeah. I'll play this out and then I'm going to find something else to put on the stream. So, while that happens, Guan Yunping can smack people with her ridiculously long spiky mace thing. That's
arguably less sillier than her old weapon.
Oh, the staff with the two balls on it.
Yeah.
Well, she did have the novelty version, which was the stick with a couple of buckets on it.
Yeah, I always
that was her
assumed
gag
that
version.
I always assumed that the gag version was actually the image they were going with to begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was actually really impressive about 8. Is you had 108 characters, and yet they all had a unique gag weapon.
Yeah, well, you can see that that's part of the way Japanese development is done, though. Like, if you look at Final Fantasy XIV weapon design competition, the results have just been announced, and they are implementing. There's 2 winners for every class.
Nice.
That are going to be implemented, and for every one they picked a serious business weapon and a not so serious business weapon.
I have to actually look at the results for that.
It's worth a look. I wasn't particularly impressed with most of them. Some of them are very nice. Some of them are a bit more unremarkable. The Astrologian one in particular is autistically detailed. Really impressive work.
The serious one or the silly one?
The serious one.
Okay.
Well, I mean, our weapon is just glowy ball.
Well, it is a glowy ball. It is just a glowy ball, but the person designing this particular glowy ball put a lot of effort into making it very specific. I will see if I can snaffle it and put it in the live show chat.
Yes. This is Dynasty Warriors fighting. It's big, it's flashy, it's flamboyant. I love it. So, yeah, playing this, I could be persuaded to give 9 a go now. Putting a demo out was the correct call. They should have done it years ago. Also, apparently battering rams explode after their job is complete.
I mean, don't your battering rams explode when their job's complete?
It's one way to get them out of the way, I suppose. Alright, gotta go fight South now.
So yeah.
So Evolve, what's you been up to?
Yeah.
A great deal. The main reason for that being that I don't remember it being quite this bad, but it must have been. The Guda Guda 4 event destroyed me. Like, there was I'd forgotten just how many fights are necessary to progress, and it's not like your typical event will have a story quest and then you'll do some grinding, and then you do a story quest and then you'll do some grinding, and so on and so forth till the end of the story. Every single fight practically, other than a particularly grindy bit in the very last end part of it, basically every single fight is different. And so it takes forever to progress through because you have to build a new team for every fight. Or at least find one that's sufficiently overpowered that you can overpower everything. But that doesn't work in a lot of cases because they'll have a lot of situations where they'll have, awkward classes or whatever that you can't easily power through. So it just took way more time than I expected to progress through that, which I found extraordinarily frustrating. But you can't have everything you want, I suppose. I've more or less done with it now. I haven't done the challenge quest. I did the challenge quest last time this one ran, so I know I can do it. I'll just see if I can get around to it tomorrow, maybe. Although I've got so many crystallized laws now that I don't need to angst about getting through the challenge quest. If I just don't feel like doing it, then I just won't do it. I can sort of see a way through that I could do it because I have enough tools in the toolkit now. I could just use one of the stock strategies to power through a boss like the challenge boss, who is basically an enormous slab of hit points, where you either have to use a chain taunt strategy and get lucky with lots of crits, or you have to use a ideally 3-turn strategy using BB Summer. I don't have Summer BB, but I have everything else that I need in order to use that type of tactic. So I'll see if I can find one on the support list and maybe get through it. Since you only just need one of her skills, and that's it. The one that locks your cards, and then you just restart the fight until you get the ideal face cards dealt, lock them in place, and then 3-turn the boss. And that's pretty much the way you do it. Otherwise, you get stuck there for like 40 minutes of play trying to beat the guys. Enormous hit points with like 4 stacks of defense buff down. So, I'm really, really over the challenge quests. So many of them are constructed in ways to just make them not fun nowadays. In order to make them, quote, hard, unquote, they just make them a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So,
honestly, I think they're starting to really hit up against the limits of what they can actually do.
Yeah, there's just too limited of a combat system. They need to really rethink the way they do their combat. Not just their combat. Like, they're not going to revamp the combat mechanic particularly now because the game is coming towards the end of its intended run story wise. But they need to think about the layout of their events and stuff, and which ones are popular and which ones are not. Because I know Grailfront is really popular mode. It hasn't come to the EN server yet, and it won't for another year or two, I think. But they need to focus on varying up the types of tasks you're required to do, so that basically to give people an excuse to do things other than farm. The meta is very, very heavily built around farming because you have to spend so much time doing it, and I think that it's a mistake for them to continue to do events where the primary activity is farming in the conventional way again. It's fine if, I just want some more mats, so I'll farm free quests or whatever. It's fine for that to remain in the form that it always was, because people want to economize that. That's just a way to dump your AP and get materials to improve your servants. But when it comes to events, I think they need to be a bit more creative, and they have been in the past with Grailfront, and I think they need to keep going down that road. Basically to give people a reason to use more of their roster than just their ideal farmers, because at the JP server's current position, Dante's Skadi is still one of the top teams, simply because it can be applied liberally to basically anything. and it's an incredibly boring formula that has been in use for like how many years now? A lot of years.
3.5, 4 years for JP, something like that.
Yeah. And you're going to get sick of playing the game if you're just going to apply DSS to everything.
I mean,
So,
but the other thing is they want you to farm so much during the events. If you have DSS available, it's insane not to use it because you're going to be there for eons.
yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, is that they are doing too much of the normal thing. Like, DSS is sort of like the ideal thing you want in your toolkit when you're doing downtime and you need some more eggs or need some more hearts or whatever, and you just got to burn a bit of AP and then go to bed. Because you just want a simple system that you can use to burn off that AP without too much fuss, that can be applied to whatever stage you need to farm today. But in an event is supposed to be something particular and special, so it would make more sense if they allowed you to do other things, like use all of those fancy single target gimmick servants that you don't normally use. Like, give them a reason to exist. But yeah, so Gura Gura 4 turned into a slog. I'm not really sure how I managed to forget what it was like, but it's one of the more amusing stories, and Kagetora is a really fun character. But like Kagetora, I think, is an interesting character because she is what Saber would have been like, what Artoria would have been like if what people thought about her as king was true. Because Kagetora is legitimately such a powerful general that she doesn't understand the common sense of humanity because she exists slightly above them. So she's not like Artoria was acting inhuman because she believed that it was her job to do so as a king, and that's where her sort of story pathos comes from. Kagetora's was that she learned how to be a human purely academically because she was so different to those around her in terms of sheer power that she couldn't behave in a normal way. And her pathos comes from the fact that she won't be accepted by others, and she doesn't really understand how to change that. But she's a really fun character, generally speaking, because she finds everything pretty much amusing. There's a reason why Nobunaga calls her Laughing Tiger, and it's because she just generally takes a light-hearted approach to basically everything. Because she's the avatar of a god, like there's not really much that she feels genuinely threatens her. But yeah, it was a Gura Gura event though, so the event got very Gura Gura. Next event, I think, is the Fate Requiem crossover event. Corner of the Fate franchise that I have zero knowledge of because I haven't read those books. I don't know if there's an English version of them or not.
Yeah, I don't think... If they're the ones I think they are, I don't think there is an English version.
They're the ones set in the parallel universe where the Grail War resulted in basically every person on Earth has a servant that is paired with them for life.
Oh yeah. The girl with the spirits inside of her or something that chew her up.
Something like that. I don't know. I haven't followed it because I would rather just consume the media properly. But yeah, I don't know if they'll ever translate the novels. Maybe they'll make an anime one day. They've got enough money at this point, goodness knows.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's probably the next one coming up. I rolled 70 tickets trying to get another copy of Setonai and still failed, like I did last time there was a Setonai banner. It doesn't work for me. The only thing I got was one copy of Detroit Emir and another copy of Liz. So my Liz is now NP5. So yeah. I sort of want to Grail Liz, but I also don't want to Grail Liz because I've already got so many Lancers that I like, and I've grailed one of them to 100 already. I don't really need more Lancers. The Lancer that I use, AoE Lancer I use the most is Valkyrie. Single target Lancer I use the most is Kiyohime. But I also like the other Lancers, like Kagetora's is a really great Lancer. Ellie-chan's a really great Lancer. And Melusine I'll probably roll on when she comes out as well, who's also like a premier S-tier Lancer. So
maybe this is why your luck is so bad. All your favorite characters are Lancers.
It could be.
It could be.
They are famous for their poor luck stat. But yeah. Anyway, that's the thing. Pinecone has a clan battle running, which is, as usual, incredibly humiliating for me because I can't make a dent.
Hey, if you can do 100,000, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think I've managed to get as high as like 250,000 or so. I think at this point, which is as far as I can push it because I don't have the compositions really either to do more than like one serious attempt a day, because the other ones they just all die. I don't have enough. I don't have the pieces to build coherent teams other than my main one for progressing the story. Ultimately, I really need to work on that, but I'm really bad at the team building, to be honest.
I was in a similar boat for a long ass time until it just kind of happened one day where all of a sudden I could contribute, and then all of a sudden I was second in the clan battles.
Yeah, I think I'm mainly stuck at the point where there just isn't enough XP pots for me to have a second team. I can't. It used to be that I was able to raise quite a few of them in the early stages, but once I've passed about level 80, it basically takes all the EXP I can get to keep one team up to date.
Yeah, EXP pots become the bottleneck real quick. Having to buy them from the shop.
I've resisted buying them, like hard purchasing them so far, because they are really, really mana intensive. And it's not like I've got a good place to get more mana either. Like, my mana doesn't increase day over day.
What dungeon level are you at? The second one still?
I'm stuck on the fourth one. I can't kill the boss because the boss is like 50 levels higher than me.
Oh, so you're at the fourth one, so you only have to do 4 fights a day?
Yes, thank the heavens.
Okay.
If it was still on the third one, I might have quit the game by now because it takes so long. But I'm glad they switched to that 4-fight format. It makes it very much more efficient. And now I can bang that out really quickly instead of getting stranded for ages.
The the fourth dungeon also really does a good job ramping up the rewards from the dungeon. The mana dramatically increases, so does the stuff you get, and it seems like your chance of getting character shards is higher. Plus, you can get what are those things?
I think every single time in this game where it has seemed like the character shards get a higher chance to drop, always turns out that it's just a statistical cluster. Because I haven't gotten a character shard in the dungeon in eternity now.
Yeah, there's what else is there? The little heart thingies you need for unique equipment drop in the next tier dungeon.
Yeah, I've got the second Sanctum survey. Thank goodness, so I actually get some hearts now. Although I had several days of just 0 heart drops during the Sanctum survey drop up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and during that time exclusively, I just got no drops. Same also for double drops and hard stages. I just stopped getting character shard drops for that week. Like, if I didn't know better, I'd think it was deliberate trolling on the part of the developer. But yeah, very frustrating. That's just how it is, though. Yeah, so I'm not making meaningful progress in that game other than the trickle. And I think at this point I just have to wait for my level to be high enough for things to be meaningful. But
what chapter in the main story are you up to?
Like 12 or 13 or something. I could push further, but there's not really much point in doing so. Because I've got all of the stages I need to farm for the things I currently have access to, except for like the purple ones, which I don't have access to yet. But yes, there's not really a huge amount of reason for me to push forward just yet, because I can't get as far as the next dungeon, so yeah. But yeah, that's that. What else? Vidya, I didn't play a huge amount of Vidya other than FF, and most of what I did in FF was just sort of maintenance stuff, like making a little bit of progress in something here, a little bit of progress in something there, leveling up various classes and whatnot. Still haven't hit 90 on my scholar. It's at 89 and frozen because I keep hitting these points where I out-level the trust avatars, and then I've got to
stop and go back.
Yeah, I've got to double back to some other character. Anyway,
Know
What
that
else?
feel.
Where's my browser? I need to check something. I watched a couple more anime. So far this season's really not impressing me overall. What new ones did I not mention last week that I looked at? I think all of them nearly were bad that I looked at this week. Skeleton Knight in Another World. Okay, so that's exactly what it sounds like. It's another isekai, except the guy's a skeleton knight. So it's basically Overlord, except
Worse.
I don't know if it's worse. Actually, yes, the writing is quite bad.
That's the impression I got, yeah.
It's very rudimentary. The main character is quite likable. He's not like the main character of Overlord, who's like Overlord is more interesting because they drop a lot of plot threads that aren't explained, and goodness knows whether or not we'll ever see them explained. But like the idea that when he in Overlord, when he goes to another world, he loses his sense of emotions are dampened, and they make it very clear there's some external force which is forcing them to be dampened, and so he can commit incredibly immoral acts without thinking about it. He can, butcher people and just not care. And he internally is thinking that he should care because he was a normal person before. He should feel something when murdering somebody, but he doesn't anymore. And there's some outside force he can feel tamping down on that emotion. So there's a deeper story at play here. In this case, that's not at play. He's just, he has woken up and he's in a video game that he was playing, and he is a skeleton knight, except that he needs to somehow keep the secret from everybody because, skeletons are not good guys.
So he was playing medieval, and then all of a sudden he just woke up as Pro Tycoon.
That skeleton was a good guy. Good-ish.
So he's overpowered as usual.
Because of course he is.
He's a bit of a goof. And while he's a likable guy, basically nothing of any real note has happened in the story. Like, he's met a big booby elf girl who has basically joined the party.
What you're basically describing is someone who's gone down the isekai checklist.
Yeah, it feels very much like that. It would be more interesting if we hadn't seen the exact concept done before. Mm-hmm. But there's just nothing notable about it. Like, it's not like it's unwatchable, but it is plotted quite badly in that they don't have anywhere near enough hooks to keep you interested. I think its most redeeming feature is that it's not the worst one this season. Because Greatest Demon Lord Reborn as a whatever it was, typical nobody, is both that name is both a lie and it's also not a good story. It's very, 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 very banal and entirely typical, and to the point where it almost makes me feel sick to try and describe it. Basically, the Demon Lord is bored of being strong, so he decides he's just going to die and reincarnate, and apparently that's a thing he can do because he wants to make a friend. Because he felt like after it's sort of, he says it early on in the story that he had one really good friend when he was alive as the Demon Lord, and he betrayed her and regretted it for the rest of his life. And so he wants to basically start over as a more normal sort of person and make a friend, basically, and manage to maintain this friendship this time without betraying his friend. So apparently the gist of it was that he would reincarnate as a more normal person, so there wouldn't be this ridiculous power gap between him and everybody around him. Except that by the time he reincarnates, it's like thousands of years later or whatever, and the general level of power in the world has gone way the heck down. And so now he's mediocre for his time, which makes him basically a god in the current time. And he proceeds to do this, going through basically as a god, albeit the most socially idiotic, autistic god ever, because he doesn't seem to understand how to interact with other people, having spent most of his previous life demon lording. So basically, because of the genre, this involves primarily ladies falling all over him and him not understanding what's going on and responding poorly. And this is basically the only thing that happens in the story so far. It's really banal. Don't watch it.
Oops.
Bad for you.
Bad for you.
Let's see what else. And I just changed the page and everything moved. So now I can't see where I was up to. I guess I'll start going down the list again until I find where I was. I don't know how many other ones I looked at. Didn't get through very many. I know there was at least one other. Oh, right. Another isekai, Trapped in a Dating Sim. This, again, is a bad version of something that was made previously.
Because last time was My Life as the Villainess or something like that.
Yeah. Now, I loved that series.
That one was good.
I intend to buy it on Blu-ray because it was charming, because the main character was just such a ray of sunshine.
When she was being a neurotic mess.
Well, yeah, but she was being when she was being a neurotic mess, she was being a neurotic mess because she was silly.
Yes.
She's just sort of silly, not like frustratingly retarded, and not dark and edgy and broody, but just kind of silly.
Yeah, just
like she's not very smart. She's not exceedingly stupid, but she's not very smart. But that was a charming show surrounded by charming characters. It didn't lean heavy on the fan service. It didn't even lean heavy on the harem elements because it was quite clear that the main character didn't see what was going on as a harem. So it was able to be forgiven of those things. So that was the good version. Much like Overlord is the better version of Skeleton Knight, and there's another Demon Lord being reborn story that was better. It was also bad, but it was better. That was done in a previous season where the Demon Lord basically he gets reborn, but somebody has rewritten history while he was dead, so that nobody remembers him. And the story of the Demon Lord has changed. There's another agenda at play amongst all his surviving adjutants, and the world has basically turned into a crap sack since he left. So that one was a better version of the one that we got this season.
Or even How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, where the main character is an idiot, but he's trying to fill the facade.
Yeah, if you're going for the really fan servicey angle, How Not to Summon a Demon Lord is one where they had to create a new version of the show for public airing. Because it was too salacious.
It's a bit shameless, let's say.
It's not merely shameless. It's basically it's caressing the border between what you can air on television and actual softcore pornography.
Caressing is both the most inappropriate and appropriate word you could have used there.
I could have said fondling, but
damn.
Rub it up against. There's all kinds of euphemisms and words we can use here.
Yes.
Yeah. So Trapped in a Dating Sim is basically a bad version of the Villainess story. In this case, the protagonist is male, which makes everything worse, like a lot worse. He's still going into an Otome game.
Of course,
he's male. And the primary conceit here is that the social structure of the world where an Otome game takes place is so spastic that he can't find his place in it, because it's a world where basically everything is matrilineal. Power is basically in the hands of women, generally speaking. So aristocracy is in the hands of men. So
how does that work?
It's basically, it seems like if you are a prince, you secure the legitimacy of your being a prince by finding a suitable noble wife, and is only by marrying that you can retain that position.
Right.
Because your actual legitimacy of your rank is secured by you being married to a appropriate ranked spouse, which is actually how it worked in ancient Egypt to a certain extent. In order to become a pharaoh, you had to marry the highest placed royal woman in the dynasty, which explains an awful lot about European pharaoh genetics, because most of the time the highest placed female in the dynasty would be the sister of the prince. So the prince would have to marry his sister in order to ascend to the throne of Pharaoh. But you could not have legitimacy as a pharaoh without marrying a woman of suitable rank. This is why there's so much sort of contention around what happened to King Tutankhamun. Why did Tutankhamun die? Was he sick? Was it an accident? Was he murdered? And people think he was murdered because the high priest wanted to be pharaoh. And it's a really interesting story, actually. It's worth looking into because the woman who the high priest wanted to marry actually wrote away to the king of the Hittites asking for him, the king of the Hittites, and the Hittites were like the arch enemies of the Egyptians in this era, asked the king of the Hittites to send one of his sons so that she could marry him and make her arch enemy Pharaoh of Egypt, just so that she wouldn't have to marry the high priest.
Hittites would have been all about that.
Well, they weren't at first because they were like, there is no way this is real.
Yeah.
But eventually the king of the Hittites did capitulate and sent one of his sons, who died mysteriously in transit. And this provoked all-out war between the Hittites and the Egyptians. And basically the idea was that the high priest must have wanted to become pharaoh so badly that he was willing to provoke their arch enemies. And of course the woman that he married in order to secure the throne mysteriously ended up dead shortly afterwards. But
yeah,
so interesting period of history. But here is similar in that the purpose of going to the academy where you learn important lessons for life, like how to adventure in a dungeon and how to use magic. The purpose for noble men to go there is to find an appropriate wife. Like the way it was with women going to university 30 years ago. Like the main reason that they went was to see if they could find a man. For a lot of them, the bulk of them, in fact, the further back in history you go. But it's like that here, and so this guy is like he was binging this particular Otome game because his sister forced him to. Immediately before dying, and in fact he died because he fell down the steps outside his apartment because he had pulled several all-nighters to finish it because he was being blackmailed by his sister. But he is from like a fringe barony, I think, which his father and the mistress that is his mother only really am able to maintain it at the behest of the horrid woman that is the official wife of his father. So he basically is saddled with the impossible task of finding a wife when he's absolutely no account third son of a noble who has no real standing and no money. And the idiotic, one of the most idiotic conceits about it is apparently the primary method of courting in this setting is to hold tea parties. And the art of holding a good tea party is like one of the primary lessons that males learn at the academy.
Gotta have your tea party.
It's very silly. So basically, he tries to live a quiet life. When he realizes he's like a side character who never appeared in the game, he tries to lead a quiet, low-key life, which basically falls apart on him because it turns out he's not the only one who got isekai'd, and it's very heavily implied. It hasn't been revealed to any of the characters yet, but very heavily implied that the other person who was isekai'd was his sister. And she is basically setting herself up as the protagonist and has displaced the original protagonist, who now has no friends because, well, the way these things typically go is that it's an outsider, ordinary every girl who ends up wooing all the male characters, right? That's the normal plot. And in this case, his sister has displaced them all, displaced the original, and so the original is sort of like flapping loose with no friends and not really anything to do, and ends up striking up a friendship with the main protagonist, and so he ends up getting drawn into
I'm out.
You're out?
No, just this is going down roads.
Oh, right, you're afraid of sister characters. Well, they make it pretty clear that the siblings deeply, deeply loathe each other.
But still, it's an Otome game, so
I guess that's true. I think the level to which she is portrayed as a horrible individual is pretty extreme, so I don't think I would worry too much about that.
That's good, at least.
But so she's basically trying to set herself up as the protagonist, has displaced the original protagonist, and the thing is that she blackmailed her brother into playing the game for her because she couldn't clear it 100%. And so she doesn't know the game nearly as well as he does. She knows enough of how to get herself shacked up with as many of the male characters as possible, but doesn't know the ins and outs of all of the stuff to get like perfect 100% completion. And basically when these two end up locking horns, although they don't know who each other are yet, you've got the main character who doesn't want a bar of the main story but has all of the knowledge of how to exploit everything, versus the girl who doesn't know all of the exploits and stuff but actually wants to win. So yeah, it's an interesting premise, but it's just kind of sloppily executed, and they make it really, really unclear who are the good guys and the bad guys amongst the rest of the cast, apart from the two leads. Because the villainess in the Otome game quickly becomes one of the fond allies of the main character when his sister starts intervening, and all of the sort of prince type characters that would normally surround the Otome protagonist are alternately sort of portrayed as being haplessly manipulated and also horrible people. And so I can't tell what it is you're actually supposed to think about them.
I kind of like this. It seems like it's going out of its way to kind of knock the story off its kilter.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling that it's going to conform very, very quickly, though. I've got a feeling in my water, so to speak, that things are going to converge on a harem situation for the male protagonist before too long. He's already got two beautiful, ridiculously busty blonde girls who are clearly after him.
Yeah, okay.
I suppose that the other discriminating thing about him is that he's a humongous cunt to people he doesn't like. And he was blackmailed into playing an Otome game, and he hated every second of it. So he has a deep-seated, and it also causes death, that Otome game.
Yes.
So he has a deep-seated loathing towards the five prince characters.
That
and
makes sense.
Behaves with unspeakable malevolence to them anytime he has the opportunity to do so. Because they are, not only are they sort of indirectly responsible for his death, but they are also, hoity-toity nobles who get everything their own way in a world where he's of the downtrodden underclass.
Spoiled rich kids.
And so he just basically, he is relentlessly cruel to them. When the opportunity presents itself, which is not often given their different circumstances, but the whole reason that he is willing to let himself get dragged into the main story that he's been attempting to avoid is for petty vengeance. They make it very clear that the whole reason is because he's petty and he knows it. He just wants them to suffer.
I'm starting to really hate this, because on one hand you keep saying things that sound like they make for a really fun story, and then they immediately fall back in the regular...
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as far as isekais go, there's the bones of a fun story there. It's sort of like an opposite evil twin version of the villainess story.
Yeah.
Where he goes in and he's just like, because he is not all sunshine and roses, because he is actually a humongous cunt with a chip on his shoulder, he's able to really stick it to the characters who would normally be the central characters to the plot. But like I said, the bones of it are good, but the execution is very sloppy. It falls too often into the normal crap that you would expect. So I mean, there's still room for it to redeem itself, but I 100% don't expect it to.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it would be unexpected for it to suddenly turn into being good. I don't think that I've had time to check out any others. I haven't checked out your boy Kongming yet.
I still haven't found somewhere I can watch that yet, though I haven't.
I can send you a link if you need one.
I might take you up on that.
Yeah.
You still using the same bobs that I sent to you, or you found a better one?
Yeah, the same one. I have to change channels a lot though because it's clearly overloaded right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Australian government seems to have taken a severe dislike to Honest Bobs. So every time I find a good, reputable Bob, it gets shut down.
Yeah. There's an awful lot of sports anime this season.
There are.
There's another real estate based one, fantasy real estate based one.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to have the charm that.
I doubt it. I think that the one with Letty and the Demon Lord and that was sort of
where Dragon goes house hunting.
yeah, that was uniquely quirky. I don't think that they'll be able to equal that. In fact, I expect them to do something grotesque and exploitative in order to try.
Yeah, I just love that. It worked so well because Letty was such a weenie.
Yeah, it's just like, my goodness, you are such a soggy character. Like, you are so milquetoast it defies description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when he does something cool, he immediately apologizes for it.
And pull
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. What?
Oh, you said milk toast.
Oh,
yeah.
Anytime I hear milk toast.
It is
Right.
one of those words.
But yeah. I don't know how many others I'm going to check out because honestly I've been very disappointed by most of them. So far the standouts are the Spy Family one, which is just due to being generally kind of good quality across the board, not because I felt it really stood out in any particular way. And the third season of Ascendance of a Bookworm is good because it's building on solid foundations basically. I haven't started watching Rising of the Shield Heroes new season. I think about 3/4 of the way through a rewatch of the original season.
Yep.
So I'll get there eventually. But yeah, it's not a great season so far, to be totally honest. Doesn't really look like there's much that really is appealing to me. There's a few things I'll probably poke at, but
Yeah. Kind of getting that feeling as well.
yeah, I think that the industry as a whole seems to be in sort of a lull right now where nobody's got any ideas about what the next big thing is going to be, so they're just going through the motions.
Yeah, I think this is probably the flow on from the various lockdowns and stuff. We had that big boom of good stuff, and now this is the doldrums everybody got stuck in.
Yeah, it seems like this season is primarily hoping to trade on big titles. Like the Spy Family one is trading on pre-established reputation that's quite strong. Ascendance of a Bookworm's trading on previous established seasons. They're up to like a fourth season of Data Live or something for the people like that. Comey Can't Communicate Part 2 is trading on previously established content. Also, people say that doesn't work as an anime, from what I hear.
Yeah.
It should have stayed a 4-coma comic. Yeah, most of the stuff is either like bargain basement, by the numbers isekai, or trading on something else. So yeah, it's just a very weak season all across the board, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got much else to talk about.
All right. So we should take a break.
Indeed.
I need the bathroom.
We'll be right back. And we're back.
Mules. So, for those who, of course, didn't notice, I'm switched over. I'm playing Risk of Rain 2 now. I tried to play RimWorld. RimWorld didn't want to work. It's also chock full of mods. That's why it took like 10 minutes to load. We'll come back to RimWorld later in the show. So for now, Ari, your week, please.
All right. So, Vol talking about his RAM this week, because I don't think I've even told Vol about this yet. But Vol talking about his RAM this week got me curious to check and see what type of RAM I got running in there. Because I honestly forgot. It had been so long since I stuck it in there. And on the task manager, it said 4 to 4 slots use 32 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, that's normal. I went into the system BIOS, and it wasn't reading anything from one of them sticks.
Hang on, what?
How can Windows? How can the kernel have told your operating system that it is reading from it if your BIOS can't see it?
So I have no idea. It was a genuine mystery to me. So I cracked open the case and identified which of the sticks was causing trouble. And I figured out what the problem is. I have one of the post-2015 cases where they have both sides of the RAM don't unlock, and then you press it down, only one side unlocks. And in this particular motherboard, you've got to press really, really hard to get those things to click. And apparently I just hadn't got this one to click all the way. So I've been living the 24 gigabyte RAM life. The 3/4 RAM life, while Vol's been living the half-life. Except I've been doing it for 6 years and not noticing.
Oh dear.
Oh, yeah, this raises so many questions.
I've got my my returns of my defective new RAM sticks have been approved, and they've sent me a replacement. So once that arrives, I will start speccing out a new rig, excluding the graphics card, of course, because I don't trust my current main board to try and put those sticks back in here after having had so many scares. So I'll probably cheap out on it. I'll buy a decent CPU, but I'll probably buy a relatively inexpensive chipset for the whatchamacallit, the main board. I can't really work out what it is that is the difference between different motherboard chipsets, other than how many channels of each thing have you got access to, and can you overclock it? And that seems to be the only things that really are affected by it. But
and processor compatibility.
Well, yeah, that's just the socket. The socket.
Yeah.
But, that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the different chipsets which all have the same socket, because they will have a top to bottom difference in price of usually about $1,100.
Yes.
So, what is the difference between the top and the bottom that is worth $1,100? Who even knows? So yeah, I'll probably just cheap out on that because, well, I mean, why not? I don't intend to ever do any overclocking. So provided I have enough slots to put all my stuff in, it's not really any real reason for me to worry about which chipset I've got. Provided it works, I'll be fine. And it's not like I'm a power user. I'm not going to attempt to put together a bunch of tricked out hardware in order to facilitate any kind of particular uses. So
yeah,
it's still going to cost me a mint because everything has gone up in price. Like I spec'd everything out, and it's going to cost me about 25% more to do this rebuild than the last one did.
Wow.
So yeah, everything's just more expensive, and people say that graphics cards are trending down in price, but I have yet to see the evidence.
Any of the mainstream ones are still stupid expensive.
Yeah,
and I'm not even intending.
They're trending. They are trending down, but the point they started at is so ridiculously high. It is hard to tell at this point.
Yeah, going down by $1 a year is still trending downward.
Yes,
but
technically truthful, not helpful.
Yeah, I'm not going to replace the graphics card. I'll keep sticking with my same one. I'll keep
my
my
current. At the moment anyway.
6 years old. I don't remember exactly what it is.
Okay.
It was mid-tier when I bought it 6 years ago. Well, lower mid-tier. Well, it's not great. I'm here to tell you it's not great. See if I can get the thing to tell me. It's an R9 380.
Okay.
Oh, goodness. I have no idea what those translate to.
Like
I know-
multiple generations ago.
It's from the 10 series, roughly. I think it's equivalent to. I have to look it up though.
I don't know for sure. I don't know how those tiers are arranged.
Mind you, they've just announced
But-
the 4 series.
It was
The 40
released in
series.
2015, so
Yeah.
it's an old graphics card, but it hasn't really had any trouble with anything. So I'll just keep using it until I either absolutely can't not get a new one, or the price comes down reasonably, and then at that point, this graphics card will get returned to the old rig that I phase out, and I'll turn that into sort of a backup computer or media server or something, and put the new one in the new rig. But we'll see how things go. Maybe that future will never come to pass, and because the world economy will collapse and nobody will be able to afford anything. So
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
It's
graphics cards. I know they've just announced the 40 series, but it's not moving at such a breakneck pace that if you buy a card today, you're not going to be able to buy or play a game this time next year.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that we're sort of hitting the effective cap of what people give a toss about as far as details concerned.
Yeah, I think we
Like-
did actually at the PS4 generation, and
Yeah,
people
I
are
don't
really
think
realizing it.
I don't think that the demographic of people who care about ray tracing is especially high. I don't
No.
think that's very many people, generally speaking. So I kind of just want to replace as many things as possible before World War III starts.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad I got my 1080 when I did. I posted a picture of the inside of my computer before I gave it a good thorough dusting. Because the Dust Bunnies they'd set up shop.
Where are they going to live now?
Listen, that is exquisitely clean compared to the inside of my case.
So I cleaned this thing up, and I've noticed cleaning it up, fans don't spin as hot anymore.
Yeah, it does make a difference. Those dust bunnies, they like their cooling.
So yeah, it still bugs me that the fan mounted to the CPU is cattywampus, and there nothing I can do with that CPU because it came pre-mounted.
Oh, so it's a single unit?
Yeah, it's
Why?
really freaking weird because it was cheap.
I'm not sure why someone would want to make that in the first place.
Because it was cheap,
Very, I guess.
Evidently.
and I was strapped for cash at the time. But it just bothers me that my fan on my CPU is cattywampus.
You don't have a lot of clearance between your drive bays and your graphics card, do you?
No.
Ew.
But yeah, it works. It's been chugging along. But yeah, those stupid RAM slots up there.
Damn
The second one from the top was not pushed down all the way on the left side, and I had to give it a good push.
That's still very strange that BIOS was reporting that it existed, though.
I have no idea actually. I could come up with theories, but there's honestly no telling what was wrong with it. But I just pulled it up, put it back in, pushed really hard.
Weird.
Yeah, I think I'll probably phase out a couple of my hard drives as well and just retire them because I just don't use much of most of my hard drive space is taken up by like 3 terabytes or whatever of archived old anime series that I have difficulty finding. But I don't actively watch most of that stuff, so having it just put aside for archive purposes in case I want to go back and retrieve them later seems fine. So I'll probably just stop using those.
Yeah.
And therefore I can go for a case that doesn't accommodate like 8 drives.
Yeah.
So-
I'd compress a bunch of that stuff, move it onto externals or something.
Yeah, I don't want to buy a whole pile of other drives, so I'll probably just leave them in the old case, and they'll become. And I'll leave the old M2 in the old case as well with the OS on it,
Mm-hmm.
and that will just become a separate computer that happens to have that stuff on it, so I can boot it up and get it off if I need it. But yeah, I'll just put all that aside, and I'll probably keep the 2 that I've got miscellaneous junk on. I'll probably get like a 1 gigabyte M2 for the OS, and maybe at some point in the future a 2 gigabyte M2 for storing other junk, and then eventually I'll just phase out the platter discs mostly. I'll keep the least aged one, clean it up a bit, and I'll use that for things like capture and that, since you should never capture to a solid state. Don't do it. Public service announcement. Wears them out. Prematurely ages them. So, yeah. A lot of people do, though, because they're just going to replace everything before it's going to become relevant. But, you know, a lot of the drives that I am currently using in my computer are like, you know, a decade old or whatever. I use things for a very long time, so I don't want to burn them out.
At least it's not too big a deal now if you burn out a solid state, because the price of them is nowhere near what it used to be.
Depends on how fast you want it, because it was making a statement like that about platter drives before, say, M2s became mainstream. That was a meaningful statement because the functional cap of speed was 7200 and 5400 if you're using a low power draw one.
Yep.
Willing to go slower. And so when you were talking about price per gigabyte, it was meaningful to make a statement like, oh, the price of hard drive space has gone down. Not really so anymore, because the discrepancy between a slow M2 and a fast M2 is actually really, really wide now.
Oh, yeah.
Because the new technology has resulted in a raised ceiling. So you can buy a really fast M2 drive, pay a lot of money for the space that you get, and actually see a performance increase.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't talking M2s, because M2s are a whole different beast.
Yeah, I don't really intend to buy much of anything else these days. The old style solid states, I think, are sort of a relic, like, because their size, unlike a conventional hard drive, is limited in size because you need a certain amount of real estate on the platters in order to record information. And the size of the drive is a function of platter size and how many platters you can fit in it. In the case of solid states, they're going to shrink indefinitely due to miniaturization. So I feel like the 2.5 format is just a relic and eventually will be phased out in favor of something like M2s. So,
maybe something a little bit more robust, because they'll be expected to be supported into the case on their own. But yeah.
But I think that's the direction they're going to go. So I'll probably buy one really, really brutally fast M2 for my new rig, that to ensure that I won't be capped by that, but rather capped by my RAM speed. So, you know, to whatever degree my RAM can be clocked up to will be my loading time upper limit type of thing, is my sort of rough logic. But I'm not very clued in on how hardware works or how you should buy good hardware. So I'm just mainly going to buy the cheap stuff for everything else. So I'm going to buy sort of like a solid mid-range CPU, solid mid-range RAM, decent M2 drive, and enough power supply juice, and then that will do me.
Yeah, most times that will do you.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing something very specific. Like,
I used to be concerned about power supplies, because when I first started building computers, how much juice you had in your power supply was a big deal, because 200 watt power supplies was still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I bought reservedly a 650, but it turns out that was more than enough, even though I run like 6 or 7 hard drives.
Oh, yeah.
It's still fine. The 650 is fine. I'm still not using all of it, so.
Yeah, unless you're using top tier graphics cards, a 650 will do you just fine.
Unless you're doing like a crypto mining rig, a 650 is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think I've got a 500 in there, and it runs everything I got plugged in there.
Yeah, actually, apparently the top tier 40s will run on 600 as well. So,
yeah, like most of the high tier manufacturers don't go below 650 now, so 650 is probably what I'll get.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that was an interesting discovery for my computer. Loading times improved a good bit. Noticed it in Monster Hunter World, even though they were already pretty fast. Noticed it in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it'll be the fact that it was probably slowing it down to match the pace of the balked one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most balked of your RAM stick will set the speed.
So yeah, now they're all back working together and should be at 32.
EBH though, it's probably just the speed that's the issue, because 32 is humongous overkill. Like, you don't need 32 gigabytes of RAM. Almost nobody needs 32 gigabytes of RAM. People think that they do, but that's not the case anymore. Back when people routinely had 4 megabytes of RAM, megabytes of RAM in their computer, then the amount of RAM was a big deal. Even when we got to the 1 gigabyte, the 512 to 1 gigabyte sort of level, it made a difference. Nowadays, there's almost no difference between 8 and 16, and basically no difference between 16 and 32.
Yeah, I think
For
I have.
normal purposes. For normal
Yeah.
purposes.
I think I got those running at 3200 megahertz. So
3200 is sort of like hardware standard. The hardware does not really go up above that. It's sort of like what you can do to your hardware using your BIOS and your motherboard's capabilities is what will determine how much higher you can crank it than that.
yeah. So yeah, just a little note I found because Vol was mentioning RAM. I was just curious about mine, and I noticed there was a problem with it.
You are an IT professional, sir.
I have an IT degree. I am not an IT professional. There's a difference.
There is a difference.
So that's yeah. So oh man. All my knowledge about technology has just slowly started to flounder
Leave
and
your
die.
ears.
Yeah. When you guys talk about stuff, I have to really dig in my memory to remember because I just don't interact with that stuff much anymore.
I
The
try
only
to
reason-
avoid it, but every time I get close to forgetting something, someone will pop out of the woodwork and say, "Hey, my X is broken."
Yeah, but the only reason I remember any of it is because my luck with tech is so bad. Like, every time I have replaced my computer, it has been because enough pieces have failed at once that I don't trust the rig to be fixed anymore, and so I build a new one. It's never because I've decided I want a faster or better computer. It's always because everything is broken. I need to learn how to buy another one.
Yeah, that's how it was for my last computer. It was like, okay, my RAM's dead, but I was still using, I think, DDR2 something at that point.
Good grief, where did you find that?
Yeah, I've been using it for
dumpster?
that long.
Yeah, I don't think they even sell. I think they still sell DDR3.
Yeah, they still
think-
sell DDR3, but not
Well,
DDR2.
nowadays the debate is between DDR4 and DDR5. And that's basically how much are you willing to pay, and will your motherboard take DDR5?
DDR
Some
DDR5
motherboards
is
do
just
and some don't.
money.
Like, if DDR5 costs a lot, and you have to buy a really high class motherboard in order to just accommodate it.
Yep.
I probably won't. I'll probably buy a DDR4 only motherboard because there's like $200 worth of difference in there.
Yeah, wait for the gap to close.
So yeah, it's. I'm glad I got this PC to the point it was at before the price hikes, and they got that GPU especially.
Yep.
That's helped a lot. I won't ever have to replace that thing. At the rate games are going, nothing is really challenging the 1080 on high.
Yeah, I looked into what it would cost me to get a new graphics card, and what I was looking at was around $500 for the worst one on the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm running a 5700 now, which is, it's not top of the line, but it's right up there. I'm not going to be replacing this thing for a good long time. Mind you, I said that about the 5600 as well, but it was broken.
With a coupon and a discount code, the 1080 right now is $650. Normally, it's around $800.
It is years old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a relatively old card.
Thanks, Crypto Bros.
Thank you, Crypto Bros. So although
yeah.
isn't crypto sinking again?
Well, it got banned in China, so
Yes.
That's why people are hoping the GPU prices will come down.
Yeah.
And the CPU prices will come down because they just the crypto bros won't go and buy them nearly as much with it being illegal in China.
also the whole industry has got sort of a bad name over the NFT thing.
Yeah, people are really starting to wake up to NFTs now. The fact that you're actually buying nothing.
Yeah, I'm astonished that it managed to take to begin with. I shouldn't be. I know that I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But it just seems to me so, like, I think that your average sort of, let's just say with no disparagement whatsoever, your average blue-collar worker who knows nothing about the ins and outs of tech will be able to tell you that it's dumb and that you shouldn't do it.
All you're doing is buying a number on a server, and it's going to be anyone's server. Anyone can mince themselves an NFT, and you're not even buying the picture that's associated with it. That's just there as an illustration.
There's something poetically fitting about the fact that the iconic representation of NFTs is an ugly monkey JPEG.
Yeah, because of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. One of the biggest NFT bros.
Yeah, that's somehow fitting. That's how NFTs are represented.
You know, it was bad when Konami was on board with it.
They never get on board with anything that isn't bad.
Yeah,
like,
Konami and Ubisoft. Ubisoft got on board with it as well and got fleeced.
Yeah, Squeenix tried to, but basically Yoshi P immediately saw what a bad idea it was to mention anything about it, and has basically been doing damage control since. Yeah,
because you say those words again, I'll slap you. It's not. I'm paraphrasing, but it's not far off.
I hate to sound like a simp, but we are so lucky to have him in FF because very, very few projects like Final Fantasy get to have somebody in charge of them who has so much power with the board.
Mm.
I mean, that's why World of Warcraft is the way it is. Well, that's part of the reason. It's not the whole reason. That would be too forgiving of the idiots developing it. But the fact that the board can interfere with World of Warcraft has really profoundly affected it in a negative way. Not as much as it has Overwatch. Like, I think Overwatch, basically everything wrong with Overwatch is the board's fault. The executive meddling. But in the case of Final Fantasy, Yoshi P has a lot of respect and a lot of weight on the board.
He earned that clout.
Yeah. The closest guy I can think to him that's been a positive influence on the boards is Itsuno at Capcom. Itsuno for Capcom, where he came in and basically told the Capcom staff, "This is the reason you're effing up. Nobody likes this. Let me make DMC this way, or I'm walking with a whole bunch of your staff." And they said,
IPs.
"Okay." And they said, "Okay."
And he proceeded to print money for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, everything starts working out great.
Yeah, suddenly Capcom's not terrible anymore.
But that's you can tell that the whole attempting to rapidly get in on the ground floor of the NFT thing is very much one of those board decisions.
Yeah, it's free money. Like, from a business perspective, it's a no-brainer. It is just money for nothing.
Yeah, but it's also evil money that is going to fall through on you eventually.
Yes.
It's just a matter of whether you can get clear of the blast radius or whether you'll get taken down by lawsuits.
Not to mention, do you trust the guy that is running the server farm wherever your NFT is and your legal ability to recoup your costs when he disappears out in the woods of Nevada?
I think that's actually one of the big draws of the NFTs, is if that server farm goes down, it goes, it's the server farm went down. Mr. Blockchain still says you own it. That's enough.
But nobody knows who is in control of Mr. Blockchain.
Exactly.
Yeah, so NFTs they're dumb.
They're just dumb.
All my apes gone, why even live?
I'm at least glad there's some of the bad ideas that have really entered the gaming space over the last 5-10 years are starting to weasel their way out. Slowly but surely.
When microtransactions become more manageable and loot boxes start going the way of the dodo, then I'll be happy.
We haven't seen a big release with the same degree of predatory loot boxes.
I think a lot of games poisoned it, but I don't think they're dead yet.
They're not dead yet.
I think companies are just sitting on it waiting, and they're still prevalent in mobile games.
What I'm worried about is the fusion of concepts between the loot box, the NFT, and the Diablo 3 auction house. Where you convince your players to do, quote, work, unquote, for digital tokens, which they will try and turn into real money using an in-game auction house type system.
No, that's close to these play to earn games.
Oh, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah, they give you money, but what you're actually doing is using your computer to farm crypto for them.
Here's how you do it. You set up your Diablo 4 Immortals, And occasionally, while players are out adventuring, they will get a drop of a loot card. And this card is sealed in a pack. And they can open the pack and get the card, and it'll be a picture of a character in the game with a unique pose. And there'll only be one of these for the legitimate online server farm. And then you open up an auction
with unique IDs.
Yes. And then, but you don't know which one you get until you open the pack. And then you can take this card and you can put it on an auction house and sell it for real money.
Oh.
And Blizzard takes a cut of the profits.
It sounds like Steam trading cards, except with unique IDs.
That exists and is called Ubisoft Quartz. What it is, it's a gun or an item in the game, and it has a unique number on it. That's the only thing unique about it.
The player base of the game were willing to cut Ubisoft's testicles off when they announced it.
Yes!
Like, I think that they saw something like a total of 24 trades in total.
In total, yeah, because nobody wanted it. It was such an appallingly bad idea. So yeah, the very thing you just described exists, and it was terrible on every axis.
But the thing is that it's about finding the right way of doing things. So I think that there are half a dozen ways Ubisoft could have implemented it, which would have, if Ubisoft were not one of the most disconnected companies in gaming, there are lots of ways you could have implemented it to exploit player psychology to make them think that they're being done a favor by participating in the system. They just did it. They implemented it in such a sloppy way that it lit up red flags everywhere for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Like if you just build like on the armature of the Diablo 3 auction house and that system of loot selling, and then you build into it this uniqueness system, and then you just sort of like hide it behind the usual psychological tricks that get people to keep grinding. You can bury that stuff in there very effectively in a way that people will accept its existence. Ubisoft tried to do it in plain view of everybody thinking that they would be praised for adopting new technology, and that was their mistake. If they'd done it secretly, then people would have accepted it.
Probably, yeah. Whoops. Actually, it's good that you mentioned Diablo Immortal. There was a little newslet that seems to have slipped under the radar.
Yeah, they're going to not ask if you guys have phones.
Yeah, you can play Diablo Immortal on the PC like a civilized person.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's a mobile game. Is the UI going to be jank as heck?
Oh, almost certainly. I'm not saying it's going to be a good experience.
MiHoYo did a good job of it, but MiHoYo built their game from the ground up to be compatible with both systems.
I'm honestly expecting some horrendous, like, overly saturated Korean grind MMO treatment.
Yeah, well, Diablo's already the mega grindy, or not MMO, but mega grindy RPG.
It would be nice to think that they'd learned some lessons over the last few thrills and spills that they've had as a company, because they really can't afford to keep screwing up.
But it's Blizzard.
It is.
But at least that's a step in the right direction. It's one. They've fallen flat on their face soon after, of course, but it's one. Anyway, we were still plowing through your week, Ari.
Yeah, so the rest of my week was full of a whole lot of work and a little bit of Monster Hunter. I got quite a bit of the way through the Iceborne expansion. I beat Rocky.
Nice.
And I've been doing a bit of the in-game grind. I forget what the dude's name is. I've always just called him Rocky.
Let's leave him called Rocky. It's fine.
But you got through that. Got the gold and silver Rathalos, dual blades, bow, and insect glaive. Although I've only really put time into dual blades because I just wanted to see the fights I hadn't seen before.
I couldn't even work out how to fight those. I knew they were in the game, but I had no idea how to get there.
You have to get master rank 70, and there's an event quest you can do, or you can do Guiding Lands BS.
Well, there was no event quest when I was playing.
Yeah.
The event quest might have been added later.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure that I was like master rank 140 something or some crap like that.
Yeah. So now you just got to get to master rank 70, and there's an event quest that you can do, and you go to Elder's Recess and they're in the back area where Nergigante takes a nap, and they just hang out there.
That's a very small room to fight two very angry lizards.
Well, you only fight them one at a time.
Oh, okay.
That's okay.
And and then you just kind of blow them up, and that's all she wrote for that one.
So, do you know how to get to them through the guiding lands?
I looked it up, and I said no, F that, because it was a whole lot of words in many paragraphs.
There weren't any words or paragraphs before, so
It's an
I couldn't
improvement.
work out how to do it.
Basically, you have to get Wildspire Waste to level 6 or higher, and Volcanic Area to level 6 or higher, and then you have to either collect the Turf War tracks and hope that you get one of them, or you encounter one in the wild there and are able to kill it, where you can go meld its tracks at the melder.
What?
And get it to spawn consistently.
That doesn't make any sense, man.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. The Guiding Lands has had a whole lot of quality of life stuff to it added, and the stuff levels up way faster now. Like 2 monsters kills will level up a zone for the first 5 levels.
Oh, wow. Because I remember I sat down, my first real sit-down play of it, I killed like 8 Pookies and I made like 10% progress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's now you blitz through the levels. It took me maybe 6 monsters to get a zone up to level 3 or something like that. And you can really get it up there really fast now. So I only had to kill 1 Pookie. Then a whole lot of other stuff along the way. But the problem with the Guiding Lands is, even though it's faster now, you still don't want to level it too fast. There's a way you can manually level down, because weapons and upgrades to charms and stuff require the miscellaneous Guiding Lands parts that only drop in the Guiding Lands from certain monsters. And if you don't kill every monster on the way up through the tiers, you're going to miss some.
Fabulous. Everything about this sounds like too much work.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So in general, I have ignored the Guiding Lands because they put most of the Guiding Lands' unique monsters that you need the special parts from into event quests.
I wonder if that's
So-
a tacit admission that just it wasn't a very successful feature, so let's not do it again in future.
Yeah,
I
I'd
hope
hope so, because
Because my big fear with Guiding Lands is that they would think it was a great idea and keep doing it.
Yeah, no, it's hot garbage.
yeah.
and
And
I
this
hate
is
every bit of
the second version of it too.
So yeah, it's a mess. Monsters that I hadn't fought before. Zinogre, Stygian Zinogre. I already fought them in Rise, and they're not too bad in World. Having no wire bug makes some of their attacks way more deadly, though.
Oh yeah.
Like their back slam they do, where they hop in the air and come crashing down on their back and do a huge splash damage AoE around them. That is outright lethal if you don't have health boost, number 1, and at least 20 resistance to their element. And number 2, that damage radius is huge. So you've got to make sure you've got the stamina, put your weapons away, and get ready to Superman dive if you're too close.
Yeah,
So-
I think that the reason why their cover monster Magna Malo was such a non-event was because the wire bug is there.
Yeah. Stuff that would be lethal just isn't. The wire bug just is 2 free resets if you don't use it for offense.
Yeah.
Like, it's just,
It was always a mistake. I mean, it allows you to do interesting things, but I think a lot of those interesting things are negative. Not just in terms of combat, but if you look at the way and like a reasonably experienced person traverses in Monster Hunter Rise, they don't touch the ground basically.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can flip
They
it
will-
from
they
here
will
over
just-
there.
Fly from point A to point B, which renders all the work you did on your stage completely worthless.
yeah, and the general changes to weapons, and especially with the dual blades, just make me angry because it takes so much more skill to get good with them in World. Even things like, so the big one is stamina management, where before the skill Constitution was mandatory, you needed to have at least several ranks in Constitution, otherwise your stamina is going to drain to nothing the second you activate Demon Mode, and you might get 1 or 2 Demon Dances off.
Yeah.
And in Rise, because whenever the monster roars or puts you in any kind of sun animation, you deactivate Demon Mode by default, you don't have to care about Constitution anymore. You have infinite stamina. You don't have to worry about not having enough stamina to sprint away from a mechanic.
I can see the turning it off for a Raw being okay, but for some of the other stuff, yeah.
Well, it made things like earplugs and Constitution big deals for dual blades users in World. You needed to have a decent level of earplugs for like every monster, because if it gets a big roar off and you're sat there with your stamina draining for a full 5-6 seconds, you're going to have none when it's done roaring, and usually when it's done roaring, it's going to start with its big attack.
Yeah, my fear for Sunbreak is that a lot of these changes are things they can't back off on for the purposes of an expansion. They really require a new game to undo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do in Sunbreak to make it like work.
Yeah. And they did things like making the buzzsaw way more powerful, making it so your dodge does damage. All this stuff just makes Rise feel so much easier going back after I've gone back to World. And I only really know from dual blades because it's the only weapon I know really, really well. But it's a night and day comparison with how much easier Rise is. Not to mention, and then the wire bug reset just changes the dynamic entirely. Because in World, if a monster has a lethal mechanic, you have 3 options. 1, you can disable the monster and stop the mechanic with a flash pod or a slinger bomb or something that will interrupt the monster, get a part broken if you think it's almost broken, something like that. Number 2, you can just not be in the way of the attack ahead of time because you know it's coming. This is not always an option. See Nergigante in his I'm going to kill you dive. And the other option is get ready to Superman. And all 3 of these options require either setup on your part, planning on your part, or reaction time on your part. In Rise, let's say Nergigante existed. The knockdown part of his big super dive that will one-shot you, you could just wirebog out of that and you're okay. It's no big deal. It's not lethal anymore.
Magnamalo does that same move, actually, so good example.
But yeah, it's not lethal. Mistakes don't punish you as hard in Rise. It really bugs me going back to World because things like, okay, Nergi's enraged right now. That means he can one-shot me.
Yeah. Rise is by and far away the easiest Monster Hunter game to date. That's really not a question there.
Yeah, it's pretty well accepted, but I dread to think what fighting Crimson Glow Valstrax would be like without a wirebug.
Unpleasant.
All of his attacks have so much AoE radius that if you can't wirebug, you will just get hit by everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. One monster that was a lot of fun to fight that I didn't really care about in Rise was Furious Rajang.
Angry Monkey!
Yeah, Angry Monkey is way more fun to fight, and the Clutch Claw actually works on him. It's like they designed the Clutch Claw to be used on a Furious Rajang. There are not a whole lot of opportunities to Clutch Claw onto him, so you gotta make him count, but you can use it to make his arms that are normally perma-bounce not bounce your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And so it actually has a functional purpose, and he's really easy to wall slam because he only has 2 grab points, his butt and his arms. And if you have any slinger ammo in World, you can expend the remainder of your slinger ammo to force the monster to run in a straight line. And if they're pointed at a wall, they do the same thing they do in Rise where they bonk the wall and they fall over. And figuring out how to keep the monkey on the ground and keep the monkey's arms tenderized was actually a really engaging part of the fight.
I still can't shake the feeling that we must be doing something wrong in Rise, because it's not like Rajang is a new monster. It's always been around, but I just felt like we were doing something wrong.
It just feels boring in Rise. Like, it's just, okay, our attacks are just going to keep bouncing off of him. And he's going to take forever to kill because he's a spaz. There's no thought in how to speed the fight up. And the other thing with World is you can bonk as many times as you want as long as he's not... he's permanently in his powered up state, but he's not permanently in his enraged state. So as long as he's not enraged, you can bonk him. You can't bonk monsters when they're enraged. You can only bonk them when they're not enraged.
Yeah.
And you can get chain bonks off, and this does head damage and breaks their horns.
Yep.
So it makes use of the Clutch Claw mechanic very, very well. Versus Rise, where nothing Rajang can do can one-shot you aside from his Super Slam that's telegraphed from 80 miles away. So Wirebug max potion or mega potion, return to fight, continue to bounce off arm.
Return to monkey.
Yeah, it's it just he was a lot more fun in World, and he's a really long and hard fight, but he's one that has a lot of fun, creative ways to use the Iceborne's mechanic that I normally hate. So I give him a lot of props for that.
I still hate it. I don't like the clutch claw, and I wish it wasn't there. Much in the same way I don't like the wire bug, and I wish it wasn't there. It's one of those features which it's a gimmick that they've inserted, which has just completely distorted the gameplay around it.
Yeah.
So
we might
they're
find
gonna have
for
to
the
have-
next Monster Hunter game, they might actually get rid of it entirely.
just bring the Slinger back. The Slinger was fine.
Yeah, Slinger worked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Slinger
I like the slinger, but I think the slinger, the reason why the slinger feels like it makes sense is because the level design was so much better in World that the slinger ammo looked like it belonged in places.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
the
and
Slinger
you
could
could
have used a bit more utility, but
I mean, yeah, the plenty of the ammo has good utility. Like you can use the piercing ammo to break wings or to chunk through a monster's body health if you're having trouble breaking the body.
Yeah.
And the bomb ammo will just outright stun the monster for a second and put it into a backstep state.
Mhm.
And the regular normal types of ammo, Crystal Burst has a concussive effect and can stun monsters. And the regular ammo can be used to knock down like all kinds of garbage in almost every level to fall on top of monsters' heads.
yeah. So I think if they built on that, it wouldn't have been a problem.
But yeah,
You could also Elder Seal with it, I'm fairly sure.
with Dragon Pods, if
Dragon
you got
Pods.
the proc off.
It wasn't
got the
particularly
proc up.
reliable though.
It wasn't reliable, but it did have quite a high proc chance. So you could reasonably assume that there was a good chance you would get an Elder Seal if you expended all your ammo on one target.
Yeah, if you manage to hit the weak point with it, it seems to trigger more. But yeah, it's there's a lot you can do with the Slinger in World that makes it not intrusive into the gameplay, because it's not the majority of your gameplay. It's just another option you have, and it doesn't give you very many easy to use get out of jail free cards. It's
also not something that you're obliged to use in combat every time you engage with a monster. Like, if you've got the Clutch Claw, you are soft obliged to use it because it makes you do more damage. So you kind of don't have a choice in a sense. And same for the wire bug. Like, well, it helps you avoid damage and it makes you do more damage depending on which moves you've got.
Plus, that's your mount mechanic now.
Yeah, so you're obliged to use it. It makes the gameplay about that feature as opposed to about the core gameplay. Whereas the Slinger, it's all just extra stuff that you can do, extra abilities, extra items, which give you strategic options. There's no item that I feel you're obliged to just use it. Oh, well, you've got the Slinger, therefore you must have this particular ammo in your Slinger every time you fight a monster and do stuff with it. The closest thing to that is Crystal Burst. And even that, you don't really miss it that much if you don't have it.
Yeah, it's like if you could give me a Slinger Bomb every single fight, yeah, great, I'd take it, but I can live without it. So it's a thing. Actually, I'd probably prefer piercing pods more than anything else because I can't ever seem to damage bodies.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, it's been an interesting run through. I have the last few. I'm in the home stretch of it now. I don't know if I'll keep going quite all the way to the end, but I want to at least get Safi'jiiva done, and that's I've got that unlocked, and I want to at least attempt some of the bigger monsters and try farming a bit of Ruiner and Nergigante and stuff. But that requires Master Rank 99, and the grind slows down quite a bit on Master Ranks after 70. It starts going at a crawl. So I'll have to find some event quests to spam that give bonus Master Rank, because they made just most of the event quests permanently available now.
Yeah.
They don't rotate anymore. So you can go
You can do Fattest Jagras anytime you want.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in there. He's only high rank, but yeah, he's in there.
Well, it's not whether he's high rank or not, it's that he's the Fattest Jagras.
Yeah. So yeah, you can pretty much do any of the non-crossover or promotional event quests whenever you want. This also means anytime an event rolls around, you get tons of free Gold Wyvern and Celestial Wyvern prints, which I was very happy with, because it sped up my farming and gear progression quite a bit. Because remember, when events go on in World, you get weekly rewards every day that you can do. And one of them is always to do event quests. Well, you can do the one that takes 30 seconds to go gather the frozen flowers out in the Hoarfrost Tundra. And then just go back to camp and repeat the mission 3 times. It'll be done in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, because the flowers like right there.
Yeah, it's like you crawl out from under the camp, and there's 3 patches right there. So yeah, that saved me a lot of time in grinding up my weapons. Now, unfortunately, with dual blades are elemental heavy and focus on elemental damage more so than other weapons because of how many hits they do in World. And this means you need an elemental type of every single type. So this meant while I was able to accelerate my grind, I had to stop and go back and build a water weapon or build a lightning weapon or something. Because in the later Master Rank missions, like, Rajang is immune to literally everything except ice.
Yeah. It's kind of his thing. He's a grumpy monkey who just doesn't give a crap about whatever you throw at him.
And if you're whacking on a monster, even with dual blades that don't have an element, you're doing basically no damage. You need that elemental damage to make dual blades any good.
Yeah, that elemental system, I feel, is one of the core systems in Monster Hunter that I feel badly needs to be relooked at on a numbers level, because the reality is that elemental weapons will account for a huge number of the different weapons available to any given arsenal. And if you're a greatsword user like me, you just don't care about any of them because elements just don't do enough damage when you're hitting, once a minute or whatever.
Yeah. So it's like, but for dual blades, we're hitting if we don't get 50 hits in a minute, we're doing bad. We need that element to be aligned with the monster's weakness so that we're not there for 40 minutes killing, a Dodogama or something.
Don't you bully Dodogama.
So yeah, it's been interesting going back through World. I've been enjoying my time with it, and I'm a little worried that it's going to jade my experience coming back into Rise when Sunbreak hits a bit more, because I'm going to remember how much better World was. Because that's been
we don't know what they do to it. Like that, they've shown a capacity to hear feedback. So unlike Blizzard, so we may still see that they've taken a lot of that stuff on board and made adjustments that make things, start to make a bit more sense when Sunbreak comes out. Goodness knows they have enough of a commercial interest in making it successful. So I think that there's reason to be optimistic. They haven't got this lengthy history of receiving feedback on things that don't quite work and then just making them worse the way Blizzard does every single time.
Yeah.
So
hopefully they'll bring the wire bug back in the line a bit.
Like I said though, the thing is that they can't undo anything within the span of a expansion.
Yeah. That won't play well. You can't take away features.
The temporal mantle tweak was probably the biggest one they've ever made.
Yeah, I was surprised they made it, and I think it was a good idea because the temporal mantle was overpowered, and frankly, it's still overpowered. But at least it's not like
ridiculous.
The game-defining one that you have to use.
Yeah,
but
especially with Clutch Claw becoming semi-mandatory, temporal mantle was absolutely busted.
Oh yeah,
because it would just let you take no damage and rock steady effectively your way through the boss, but you didn't take the damage while you're on its head chewing through it.
Oh yeah, it got ridiculous.
Until you get Clutch Claw boost, you got to do that twice, and temporal mantle is the best way to do it.
I do like that they think carefully about doing those things before doing them, and I do like that they are willing to actually do them when it proves to be definitely necessary. But yeah, I think that there are limits on what you can do within the span of an expansion. I don't know what they could do with Sunbreak to make things make a bit more sense. I think that the unfortunate reality is that they will probably just have to build monsters that will never appear again entirely around the environment they've created with those features.
Mm.
Yeah, you would have to. I guess you could design monsters and variants of monsters for the ones that already exist that punish you harder for use of the wire bug as a recovery tool, so that you don't just get up and drink your mega potion. It's like their big attack didn't happen.
I'd love to see a monster that if you try to wire bug out, it just grabs the bug.
Well, there are some monsters that I feel like are partly in that direction. Like I can't remember offhand, but I remember having had the feeling in the past that there are certain monsters in Rise that are waiting for you to wire bug to punish you for it.
Yeah. I'd love to see more of that. Like, intelligent use of the wire bug would still net you a result, but careless use or overuse, the monster wises up to it. That would be a great way to do it.
But yeah, it's going to be something to look forward to there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much been the only bit of video gaming I've been doing. I played a bit of Final Fantasy, got through the main story again, so I'm back to caught up. Got the raid unlocked. So
Yeah,
me
so
and
do I.
Fern was talking. He wanted to do it after the show, so I'm like, oh, I got to get that unlocked.
Yeah.
So I spent all of Friday and just marathoned the current patch.
I did get in contact with some old friends of from Final Fantasy. They saw me online, and now that they can see across servers, hey, Fern, you're online. Want to come to P4S?
Ah!
Oh, what now?
Did you explain to them that you have like barely passable gear to do the current raid?
I'm a bit better off now because I've done up to P3. But yeah.
No, they're just humble bragging.
These are the mad lads that did blind progression on Endsinger Extreme.
Well, everybody did blind progression on Endsinger Extreme.
Yeah, they did it day one. So,
like, that's just what you do. There's nothing mad lad about that. That's how you do. That's how you do Extreme Primals. Extreme Primals are different from Savage. In Savage, the expectation is that you have studied the strats beforehand. In Extreme, learn by doing is the norm.
Yeah, I've watched the Extreme Endsinger fight, by the way, and there is a lot going on there.
Yeah, well, it was held by the developers to be the hardest Extreme that they've done in a long time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
They purposefully upped the rewards because of that.
But yeah, it is crazy. There's planets flying everywhere. There's just AoEs constantly. It's nuts.
So yeah, froth and foam is a thing.
Froth and foam.
I thought
That
it was
cute.
adorable.
It was cute. And yeah, the story so far with the new raid has been very quick and very underwhelming compared to the near raid.
Well, that's I think exactly what I said about it last week. It's just that I don't know where they're going with this because it's really, really underwhelming. But I feel like we have been given reason to trust these people with their writing.
Yeah, and there is the hook in that these are major background lore characters that we're fighting. So,
Yeah,
so
well, also that you've got people sort of at odds here. Like the Garleans swore up and down that the 12 were primals, and they acted as though they knew this for a fact, whereas these individuals are swearing up and down that they are not primals.
and then you have random mysterious adventure guy with a monkey.
I want his money.
Well, I mean, they always introduce a random guy. That's pretty standard for their raid series.
Yeah. There's
But yeah,
always
it's
a random
just,
person de jour who turns up.
There was just so much that led up into the near raids. I was expecting the lead up quest to be a bit meatier. I
Well,
guess.
to be fair, being what they were, the near raids also needed a great deal more justification to exist.
Yeah, I think comparing the regular raids to the near ones is a bit...
I think the
Yeah.
Rabanesta raids are the better comparison. Because they built a lot of scenery around setting up for the existence of the Rabanesta raids.
Mm-hmm.
And those environments are pretty extremely well developed, like in a way that you don't see in very many other places, even within the game. Like like the journey through the sewers of Rabanasta is just a really impressive sequence.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we will see. We might do it after the show, and we'll come back with reports on it.
I want to do the Null Thal fight, partly because Thal's balls has been turned into a mechanic, but also because the soundtrack is really, really
I
good.
have purposefully avoided hearing any of the soundtrack because everybody says it's good.
It is
And
good.
so I want to wait and hear it in context.
I've only seen Ms. Tech's video once, and there was enough going down. I'll have to watch it again and take notes before we go.
Yeah, Thal's balls.
The communication, they've taken the communication of mechanics up another notch, though. Like, it's even more explicit than normal.
Which is probably a good thing.
Well,
Yeah, 'cause-
yes, because they're very complicated mechanics.
Yes!
And a bunch of them appear very lethal.
And yeah, because it's an alliance raid, there's so much going on.
Yeah,
Look
like, I
up
mean,
in
when I was watching Miztek's video of it, I saw the people in the group die many, many times, and she was in a group with 3 red mages, so...
It sounds like cheating almost.
Get the res button ready.
Just get the res button.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing. And the rest of my week has just been more work. Work continues to be work.
Work. No, that's thinking of good Blizzard times. We can't have that now. So
Yeah.
let us look at some news, shall we?
What have we got? Did we check the email box just before?
Yeah, nothing in there
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
So I guess I'll quickly touch on the one that I hinted at earlier. RimWorld is now available to buy in Australia again. Because our
So
our
was
ratings
there
board is
a change in policy, or was it just at the end of a very long list?
probably at the end of a very long list.
Because RimWorld came out a very long time ago.
Yes. Oops. I just got smushed. RimWorld came out years ago, and then back at the start of this year, it was taken off the shelves in Australia because drug use, among other reasons. This is the game that lets you harvest organs from helpless prisoners.
I don't understand the Australian Content Board's logic. Like,
They don't have one.
if they were to enforce their principles consistently, like, you wouldn't be allowed to watch the evening news in Australia.
Yeah. Nobody really likes the Australian Ratings Board because they've got absolutely no clue. They're basically just lifetime bureaucrats who we're waiting to die. I'm not really even joking there. They're people who are so deeply ingrained into that seat that you just can't get them out.
Believe me, I know. I'm a Catholic. The Curia is like that raised to the 10th power.
Oh yeah, it would be.
When there are problems with the bureaucrats in the Curia, we actually refer to it as the, and I quote, biological solution.
Yes.
Because the only way you can winkle someone out of the Curia is by waiting for them to die. The only advantage is that members of the Curia tend to be ancient.
Yeah, although historically the process has been accelerated once or twice.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing with this character. I'm going to die. So yeah, it's basically a bunch of out of touch old fogies who really have no business doing with the job. So we fought like you wouldn't believe to get the R rating put into our system years ago, and
they just don't use it.
they just don't use it.
They pretend it doesn't exist.
Unless a developer or writer or whoever, depending on the content, really campaigns for it, then it'll just get slapped with a restricted sticker, and that's all you get. So that's a bit of good news, at least.
I mean, there was a spin-off OVA for Excel Saga, you know, back when that was a thing. I wanted to get it because I really enjoyed Excel Saga, and the spin-off was supposed to be even more ridiculous, but it was banned. It was banned in Australasia. I don't know what was in it, but it was banned.
Something spicy, probably.
Yeah, probably.
So that's just a little bit of good news I figured I'd throw up there. I was wondering what they would do when the next expansion came out. Because, yeah, I love RimWorld. It's a great game. You can do unspeakably horrible things. But you can also do some really good things if you really want to.
As with so many of the games Fern plays, everything I know about RimWorld comes from Seth.
Seth, yeah. He kind of wraps it up nicely. He
has a way of doing that with a lot of games.
Yeah, I think he turned his camp into a black market organ trade.
That was part of what he did, but he also seemed to turn it into like an oven.
Also, yes. Mind you, I think his best effort so far was with Amazing Cultivation Simulator.
I did not understand anything that took place in that video.
Yeah, he managed to basically turn a character who would regrow and then immediately shed their penis into an infinite gold farm. So
there's a lot about that I don't want to contemplate too deeply.
I suggest you don't.
He was surprisingly critical of Elden Ring, mainly its stability and its tendency to corrupt his saves.
Yeah. Elden Ring, it's still a good game, but that port, yo. It's a lot better than it used to be.
I didn't have a single crash back before my RAM died. I didn't have a single crash.
You were late to the party.
Yes, well, that seems like it has worked entirely to my advantage, to be honest.
Yes, yes, it has.
The first 2 weeks of that game were quite rough.
Quite rough indeed. Although, actually, there's been a rather fun bit of goings on YouTube about it. A critic. No, I'm not even going to give him that dignity. A content creator, possibly an influencer, if you really want to make him scum. Had a spectacularly shit take when reviewing Elden Ring, and everyone's been tearing him apart for it. And so, of course, his natural response was to cry to Daddy YouTube and start issuing false strikes. You know, the usual way these things go.
That's cringe.
Yeah. That's how Rags came back onto my radar. That was his annual video. Yeah.
You just got to go get Mama Wojcinski to take down the meanie people calling you names on the internet.
I was very happy to see that Grafted Blade got its numbers cranked through the roof, since it's my current weapon of choice.
Yeah,
it was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah,
considering how slow it was.
It needed a bit of love.
Especially for its stat requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how many balls I had to watch roll off a cliff to get that many stats?
Oh my.
So yeah.
What other little bits of newslets do we have? You want to talk about the reeing?
Yes.
Yes.
Harry always wants to talk about reeing.
The reeing has been delicious. There's an infinite supply of salt going around Twitter at the moment.
The re-emergence of certain cancerous individuals who I had hoped to have seen the last of.
Well, yeah.
We talked about it last week that it was looking good for Musk and like he had a whole lot of plays. And this week, the Twitter board just threw their hands up and gave up.
Yeah, basically the play he chose in the end was screw the rules, I have money.
Yeah, a tried and true play.
I'll just go buy it cheaper from every single shareholder that will sell it to me. And then you won't be able to do jack about it. And the Twitter board's like, well, crap.
So yeah. The fallout of Musk buying Twitter has been delicious.
Yep, the best African American coming in for the win there with buying out Twitter. And now he's not a particularly, I don't even want to call him a political guy. He kind of blows in the wind a little bit.
He does.
I think that on a political level, outside of his like precise area of interest, he's a normie.
Yeah, he's pretty normie.
But he is a big free speech guy, and has been getting very annoyed when he sees his right of Chairman Mao friends being just obliterated from the platform.
Which, yeah.
Well, I think that's because he's sort of like he's one of our people in a sense. Like he likes slightly edgy humor and he likes goofing off online and he likes memes and that sort of thing. But in order to be that type of person, in order to like that kind of thing, you need to have a sense of humor. And the people that controlled Twitter up until just now don't have a sense of humor.
Nope. It's either you're towing the line or you're the enemy. That's really the only two options.
Yep. So Musk now is the owner of Twitter. The deal doesn't go through for like 6 to 12 months.
Oh yeah,
in
but we're
full.
starting to see changes already.
Wait, it's
But,
just much like the handover of Blizzard to Microsoft. You need to prepare the grounds for your transfer. Like, just because it hasn't happened officially yet doesn't mean that you can rest on your laurels.
Yeah, I think Musk can, because once the purchase was announced, everyone went reeing to the FCC, who just basically said, "We're not stopping it."
Yeah, well, they don't have the authority to stop it to begin with.
Exactly.
It's not their business. It's
They
not what
just
they
said,
do.
This ain't ours.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people were reading about Monopoly and how he broke. None of that holds up.
None of
at
that
all.
holds up.
It's a
Yeah,
business. He's allowed to buy it. Like they if they hadn't spent the last 8 years preaching about how it wasn't a monopoly, maybe people would believe them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
They basically have set up all of the swords for themselves to fall on.
Yep.
So the funniest part to me has been the Twitter backend changes that are very obviously happening.
When you're suddenly getting accounts which were very, very quiet, very inactive, and never would show up on people's threads, even if you were subscribed to them. Suddenly, they're active.
Well, it's not that they're active again. It's that
You
they
can
were
see
always
them.
active. You just couldn't see them. So a whole lot of shadow bans have been undone, and a whole lot of the algorithm behind the scenes to force the narrative has been removed. You've
Yes,
noticed the trending tab has not been nearly as curated as it has been.
Yeah. Like, but people have been referring to it as shredding incriminating paperwork.
Well, yes. Here's the thing, though.
The whole shadow banning thing was supposed to be something that didn't exist.
Yeah, but
You
hey,
know,
guess
can't
what?
afford to have that be exposed by the new boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
But,
they swore to Congress that it didn't exist.
Yeah, a lot of perjury happened.
But here's the thing. It's digital data, and you can go back. Unless they go back and actually delete all those old archives, which they may very well, that data can be retrieved.
If Elon's autistic enough, unless they microwave the thing, he can figure out what happened.
I don't
He can
think
figure
that
it
they seriously think that he can't figure it out. I think that the issue is that they want to demotivate him from doing so by making it, oh, well, I mean, he could go to all this effort to crucify a bunch of people who are now irrelevant, but since all of it is buried under all of this history and things are working now, it's just not worth the bother.
Yeah.
And
I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
You can notice this in Twitter followers of accounts as well. A bunch of prominent, hyper woke people suddenly had thousands of followers just disappear.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that this is natural user behavior. And that's the official line from Twitter themselves, I believe. And that's what is being claimed. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are making good on their promise to leave Twitter. But as the I'm moving to Canada phenomenon showed, that tends not to stick.
Well, you had a whole bunch of ultra wokes saying, "Oh, I'm leaving Twitter," and they closed their accounts, and they were back within 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Talcum X.
Yeah, Talcum
Yeah.
X being the most prominent.
So what actually is more likely that happened was these people had their accounts astroturfed by a bunch of bots.
Yeah.
And
I think that those Indian bot farms are either they're being shut off or bot filtering technology that is working for some accounts and been switched off for certain other accounts.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a
so-
degree of natural movement, people reeing on the way out the door, and normies
there's the
actually coming
opposite.
back in.
There's the opposite direction as well.
Yeah.
You have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene gaining over 100,000 followers in 2 days.
Yep.
I think that's actually more credible that that's natural because people can see her again. B, people who just didn't bother with Twitter before will now be hearing the message, oh, Twitter might not be a left-wing enclave forever, so maybe it's worth starting to establish a network here. So that's has a higher percentage chance of having more of an organic factor to it, I think.
So you've got everything looking roses for Twitter, basically financially anyway, but should the sale fall through and Musk get pushed out the door, all those people are going to disappear.
I don't think that it will. I think that it's while it's not finalized yet, I think that it's at the point where it's pretty much a given, and their user base has increased significantly as a result of the sale going through, which means that the sale going through is demonstrably to the commercial advantage of Twitter properly. So, yeah, as far as that goes, all political considerations aside, Elon Musk is basically doing what you expect a tech venture capitalist to do, which is to find something underperforming, buy it out, and make it better.
Well, he's done it twice already. You can argue about the long-term technical viability of Tesla, but you can't knock that Trump turned it into a profitable business. Musk.
Well, I mean, he made most of his money off of PayPal, and PayPal was a pretty good implementation, and it wasn't his first rodeo either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't much like the whole Tesla concept. I think it's kind of dumb. Because he sees himself as an environmentalist, and I think that the whole concept of electrical cars is kind of dumb because they, on average they weigh 50 to 100% what a regular car does, which means that if the amount of fossil fuels consumed to power those batteries is even 50 to 100%, let's say that they take half as much fossil fuel to charge as a conventional fossil fuel running car takes to drive that same amount of distance, laying aside all the other drawbacks, that means you've already obviated any environmental gain because they weigh so much. All of the components in electric cars are ridiculously heavy, and they are very hard to make lighter because batteries have not gotten lighter in goodness knows how long.
Not to mention the electrical demand means that you need to rely on fossil fuels because renewables are not up to the task.
Well, the thing is that fossil fuels aren't up to the task either. That's just why California's in a permanent state of rolling blackouts.
Yeah.
Because everybody there wants to have an electric car and the grid can't support it.
The grid cannot support it.
There's something that when they are, like... I've seen Australia's government is getting a ridiculous amount of flack for not aggressively pursuing electric vehicles, but...
Yes,
you guys have brownouts already.
Yeah. Well, where I live, if I had an electric car... And yeah, there are cars that will actually fit the bill if I'm willing to pay, but it's like, oh, you have an electric car. Don't leave town.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, can you actually do anything with 3 hours worth of driving? Like, is that it?
There's a popular video going around right now of a couple pulled over in their Tesla, and they had an electric charger or a gas-powered charger in the back of the car, but they didn't fill it with gas. So this MAGA chud has to pull over and pull out his can of gas to put into their electric generator so they could charge their car to make it to the next Tesla stop.
Yeah. Like, it's a nice idea, honestly, but...
But it's only a nice idea in terms of pure theory.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The technology is just nowhere near where it needs to be able to be wide-scale viable.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's 5 years away either. I think that we're looking at more like 15 to 30 years away.
10 if you want to be... Yeah, because 10 at the least.
Rare earth metals are, as the name suggests, rare. And there's a finite amount of it. Most of it is owned by China, which is about to go to war with the entire world.
If they don't just collapse.
Yeah. They're either going to implode internally, or they're going to try and stave off internal implosion by attacking everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the big thing that needs to happen is they need to find a way to make batteries more efficient and make them smaller.
Efficiency won't be the half of it. I think that they need to change the technology right down to the concept level of how energy is stored, because currently it's stored by predominantly by rare and toxic materials that weigh a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah, so until you get to that point, it just ain't real viable to have these electric cars out, because it makes these things cost a ton. And most people just can't afford that, especially right now.
That's not what Joe Biden thinks. He
Yeah,
thinks
well,
the fuel costs too much. You should have bought an electric car.
Yeah, not
Okay,
how
so
that
you-
works, old Joe.
you gonna give me that $90,000, Joe?
No, of
Of course not.
course not.
I mean, he's got plenty. I just
Well,
check
it's
the
not-
receipts on his son's laptop.
Well, he may have plenty, but the value of it is rapidly decreasing with every dollar he prints.
To be fair, you could probably write a number on a napkin, write invoice across the top, and push it across the table to him.
That would probably be sufficient to get money out of him. Yes, he's not really all there. I think any part of him is there. In fact,
No, not really.
apart from the sniff reflex appears to still be there.
If it wasn't for the sniff reflex, I would think he was a deep fake all the time now, and just a literal puppet.
You know he's still real because he sniffs.
Oh, man, he
let's change the
he
subject
had
because
a-
this is going to get us in
He had a
trouble.
moment the other day.
Yeah, I heard people talking about him having a moment, but I haven't looked into it. But it sounds like it was pretty bad.
I think Knowles has a clip of it. I'll dig it up and dump it in the politics board.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
let's talk about
that's, that was basically the thing that got talked about on the internet for the past week.
yeah.
It was good old Musk got a hold of Twitter, and the reign it doesn't stop. In fact, it keeps escalating.
And the
And you get
takes
Musk.
are delicious. They're
Yeah.
bad, but they're really fun.
And then you got good old Musk with some golden responses here, where AOC takes a shot at him. I'm not going to read her whole tweet, and he just goes, "Stop hitting on me. I'm really shy," in reference to her previous tweet,
Yeah.
where she said, "People that are mad at me just want to date me."
Yeah.
Anyway, what else have we got on the agenda today?
We got Ubisoft being scummy.
Ubisoft are always being scummy.
I know. The sky is also pink. Wait.
Yeah. So, well, this is more of a thing that was just going to happen eventually.
Yeah, it's an inevitable part of the live service equation.
Yeah. So,
It's
A
a similar
whole-
reason that I'm nervous about what will happen when Gay Ben dies.
Yeah.
yeah. So a whole bunch of games are losing their online service from Ubisoft real soon. I would imagine this many games going all at once is because it's just too expensive to buy more servers right now.
The people who can no longer play Rainbow Six are going to riot.
Oh yeah, that game is still super fun. Super popular.
Like nobody cares about not being able to play Just Dance from 4 years ago or whatever.
Nobody cares about playing Just Dance from this year either.
But I mean, even Heroes 5 is going down. Like I own that. What am I supposed to do now?
I liked Heroes 5 was...
I didn't like it much, but it's
Yeah.
still a Heroes game.
It's still a Heroes game.
The problem with the Heroes franchise is that Heroes 3 exists.
Yeah.
Got to download that stupid third-party app that's made by some fan that runs a virtual server that you connect to, like we had to do for Red Alert 3 that one week.
Yeah, because EA did this a few years back with a bunch of their games.
Yeah. So notable games we're losing: Ass Creed 2 and several of the other ones. Far Cry 1, 2, and Blood Dragon. Let's see, Heroes of Might and Magic 5.
Mostly
Every
it's like
Just Dance.
PS3 era and earlier for the most part is what we're
Yeah.
looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all the Just Dances up to 2018 at least. Some Might and Magic games are going away. A bunch of the Rabbids stuff is going away.
Oh,
Rainbow
there's no
Six
loss
is
there.
going away. Yeah, Rainbow Six, Raven Shield, Lockdown Vegas, and Vegas 2 are all going away. A bunch of the Rayman games are going away, including Origins and Legends, which are, I think, still seeing
They're still
decent
great
sales
games,
and player-
but the online really didn't add a whole lot to them. They had a daily challenge run, but that was about it.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
not-
just hoping, for the sake of the people that are playing them, that most of these things were built in the era where it wasn't absolutely required that you be attached to the online service in order for the base functionality to work.
Yeah. So some of these games should still work just fine.
Yeah, but
Like Rayman.
yeah.
Incidentally,
So,
I'd love to see them make more, just a game out of the music levels out of Rayman Legends, because those are so much fun.
But yeah, the reason that I picked on Rainbow Six is that even though the Rainbow Six games that the service is ending for are old ones, the people that play those games, they tend to be sort of like the Age of Empires audience, and that they play the old games and they keep playing the old games with like religious fervor. And Rainbow Six kind of doesn't work without multiplayer.
Yeah. Also, what are you doing? Your audio quality was all over the place there.
Oh, it's because I moved in my chair.
Ah. So, I mean, it's not surprising. It is still the major downside of this. Well, one of the major downsides of the games as a service thing is sooner or later that service goes away.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure that I buy the whole expense argument, because I just don't see most of this stuff as requiring a lot of money to run because the technology is quite old. I know that there's going to be a certain amount of upkeep required to keep them ticking over, but yeah, I think that it's probably more about being able to show somebody in accounting that they have cut dead wood than actually because the dead wood needs to be cut.
Yeah, probably. One of the bean counts has woke up for long enough to actually demand some movement, as bean counters want to do. So yeah, it's sad, it's inevitable, and it's still no less scummy.
Yep. Tangenting a bit from our China discussion earlier, it's worth noting that this isn't just MiHoYo that's getting hit by this, but a bunch of Chinese games just are on indefinite hiatus with updates.
Well, things are bad over there right now, like really, really bad. The government has basically lost even more touch with reality than our governments in the West have. And it tends to happen when you have a government that it consists of one absolute ruler and a whole bunch of yes men, is that no matter how hysterical and idiotic the approach that the dear leader takes, everybody has to agree with it. And so, there's a lot of people sort of getting bricked into their houses type of thing. Like supply chains have devolved into non-existence because nobody wants to quarantine in their truck outside a town that they're delivering something to for 2 weeks. There's a lot of things in China are falling apart right now.
So yeah. The biggest hit to the Western audience is that Genshin Impact's future updates are just not happening. They're on a quote indefinite hiatus.
Yeah, they probably just lost a critical number of staff and they can't keep operating. Either that, or they've gotten into a bit of a stoush with the party, and their license to operate has been suspended.
Yeah, would not surprise me. So yeah, it's they're of course blaming the COOF because the party says they have to blame the COOF.
Well, and the thing is that the party genuinely does believe that the COOF is the problem. That's what I mean when I say they're losing their marbles.
So yeah, it's a mess in China right now. So hope you're not attached to any Chinese products. Told y'all this would come for Genshin. All the Genshin simps out there.
Yeah, it's sad because MiHoYo does produce quality work. There's no question about it. And they've got a new game coming out that looks really cool. But yes, that's just frozen in limbo now. The open beta was closed beta was supposedly just starting up as well. So
hopefully things get sorted out soon then.
Well, it's China.
Yeah, soon TM.
Oh, I wouldn't hold my breath for that.
Alright, do we have anything else?
Already covered the chip shortage thing in our weeks. Not a whole lot to talk about with the video game sales drop. And the other one's just a shareholder approval.
Yeah, so the sales drop one is not a surprise, and shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
There's about 30 different reasons why.
Yeah. The biggest one is people can go outside again.
Well, the biggest one is people don't have as much money to spend on Vidya right now.
That's another big one.
Everybody's finding money a bit tight right now.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because they have less of it, but because it's not worth very much anymore. Who would have thought?
Hmm. Alright, I think that's about it then.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else. I suppose Blizzard's earnings call happened, the Blizz Activision earnings call, and basically not all is good with Blizz Activision, big surprise.
No. So, I don't know. I think things are going to get a big shake-up over at Blizz Acti very soon. And I think the earnings call is probably just going to accelerate that. But we shall see.
Yep.
The response to their new expansion is still mediocre, I guess, overall.
Yeah, there's just it's not like the things that they are saying that they're going to do aren't good things that are important for them to do. But the problem is that the trust is broken.
Yeah. So honestly, everyone's just waiting for them to crack the bed.
Yeah, we don't believe they will do it in the first place, or they'll do it poorly.
Yeah, or they're just going to do something that they didn't bother to announce and ruin the whole thing. Because they've done that before too.
Yeah, it'll be something.
So, yeah, everyone's just kind of cautiously optimistic, but waiting for the other shoe to drop. I really, really hope for the people who are still high on hopium, the other shoe doesn't drop. For their sake.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Blizzard recover itself somehow, but yeah, I don't know what that would look like.
Yeah. Having an expansion that's not crap would be a good start. Anyway, shall we start to wrap up? I am stuck in the wall. There we go.
Yep. I think that's pretty much everything. Closing comments, go.
Alright. I'm not as down on Dynasty Warriors 9 as I was before. I still probably won't buy it, though. It is... Well, actually, it's like 75% off at the moment, so maybe I will.
I don't think it's worth it. I would rather just go back and play one of the older ones, to be honest.
Honestly, yeah. Or I'll get Warriors... 9 Empires. And try that. Except 9 Empires isn't included in the KT sale that's going on right now, so... Doesn't count. Because it's only been out for, what, a couple of months? I'm not even sure if it's actually out properly yet. I'm thinking of it.
Yep, I don't know. I just want work to end so I can sit down and
Vidya.
and just Vidya for like I just need like a week of just
Yeah.
normal workflow. That's all I'm asking for.
Ah. I hate this boss. Is the worst boss.
Just need to recharge my batteries for about a week, and that would need a week of normal workflow where I can just sit and play some Vidya, talk to some people on Discord, do whatever, and not think too hard.
Yeah.
Ugh. So yeah, I think we're done, folks. We will see y'all next week. Sayonara, bye-bye.